You may or may not have seen these videos. In these videos is purportedly missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. It disappeared on March 8th, 2014 on a flight path from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
The Beijing-bound flight departed Kuala Lumpur and was scheduled to land in Beijing at 6:30 a.m. It went missing 2 hours into the flight.
This is very rare. For an airplane to disappear is not normal.
And according to Ashton Forbes, an independent researcher, he thinks these videos show Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 being teleported away by 3 UFOs. He spent months deep diving into this, done many podcast appearances. And one in particular he was going to do was the Joe Rogan Experience. But Joe Rogan changed his mind. He called the videos BS.
You had sent me a video of a UFO thing that I sent to Jeremy Corbell, and he says it's bullshit.
Which one?
The one where the plane gets circled by the drones.
And I don't think...
See, that thing,
yeah.
that boom, is actually... that's
from a video game?
That's from a video game.
No, it's not. It doesn't match up.
It does, but it does match up.
So I reached out to Ashton and said, hey, why don't you come on Vetted? Let's do the interview you were going to do on Joe Rogan, but let's do it on Vetted. So that's what this is. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. Put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And please hit that like button, Vetters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think about these videos, MH370? What do you think about my conversation with Ashton? Very curious to see and hear and read all the different comments that we're going to get from this. So let's dive in. Without further ado, my guest, Ashton Forbes, on Vetted. Welcome to the show, man. Pleasure to have you on Vetted.
Hey, Pat, thanks a lot. I'm happy to be here on Vetted with you first time.
Yeah. So look, real quick, I think it would be appropriate to just talk about the elephant in the room, at least the elephant in my room. Because originally I had made a video about you and these MH370 videos that had come out. And I basically in my video pretty much accused or insinuated that I thought I was 99% certain that you or someone you knew had made these videos, right? And you were kind of faking it. And I have to admit, man, I apologize. I don't think that I gave you the fair shot you deserve. These videos, the fair shot they deserve, this entire sort of investigation. And I dropped the ball. And I do want to apologize for that, man, which is why I wanted to have you on to have a nice objective discussion about it and just leave it at the feet of the audience to decide, you know, what they want. So I just personally wanted to say that to you, man to man. I apologize. I didn't give you the fair shot you deserved.
Yeah,
So,
thanks, Pat. That's super nice of you, man. It's really big of you to say that in general. I also want to apologize to you because, you know, this is new to me. I was like a normal guy. I was never an influencer or anything like that, and came on and things grew really big. And I didn't know. I had lots of people taking shots at me, especially beginning early on. I was uncertain in terms of like how much of it was organic or not. So I apologize. I didn't give you a fair shake either. And I appreciate that we were able to talk it out, you know, behind the scenes as well, because, you know, I just think that's what 2 normal guys should be able to handle. So thanks a lot, man. Happy to be here.
yeah, that's awesome. Exactly. I agree, man. No, you did. And you know, that's something I noticed after as well myself, dude. I started to notice, dude, people just coming at you horrifically, dude, just saying things about you and me too, right? It's happened to me too. And I got to witness it firsthand about you as well. And I just thought, dude, this is effed up. Ashton is just not getting the fair shake here. People are just going out of their way for some odd reason. And I get it, man. Same thing for me. Jump into this community. You don't know what to expect. It's a lot. It comes at you. And yeah, man, so good. We, you know, water under the bridge. Let's do this. Let's jump in on this. Again, it's so awesome to have you on here, dude. So look, let's start with, to me, the first question I ever had when I saw these videos and saw that there was a big investigation about it. Okay. Which is, how do we know that the plane in these videos is flight MH370, right? We're talking about 2 different videos,
Yeah.
which we'll show them here in just a second. But yeah, that's my first question. What do you say to that?
No, that's a good question. Yeah. So right away, the time frame of the videos that we've seen emerged right after the plane went missing. And on the first video, it says received March 12th, 2014, which is 4 days after the plane went missing. There's actually metadata in the video. It's not in the description, but the metadata that tags MH370. Regicide Anon made a Twitter account 3 days later after they published the videos on May 19th, or they published them May 19th, 2014, the first video. And they made the Twitter account May 22nd, 2014. And in that, they said, watch this before it gets deleted. And they actually tagged MH370 in there as well. Now, if that's not enough, then the drone video, which was released a week later or 2 weeks later, roughly after the first video, June 6th is when it says it was received. June, I think 12th or 13th, I may have that wrong, was the date where it was supposedly published. That one is a thermal video from a drone from the side. And then that one is actually a perfect overlay of MH370 exactly. And I have that actually, at least currently, as time of this video, in the banner of my profile on Twitter as well. So, because I think that's really just absolute proof that what is being represented in these videos is MH370. It's also the capabilities of the plane are perfect in with respect to a 777-200. While in a turning formation, while in descent, performing an emergency maneuver, like slightly more of a turn than what you would expect from a standard circle formation. And so I think that's pretty strong evidence. But the last piece as well is that in the satellite video, it says NROL 22 in the bottom left, which is the first launch from the National Reconnaissance Office of the SBIRS system in 2006. And you can see coordinates that move 6 times. We were able to definitively determine that that is the coordinates of the Nicobar Islands, which so happens to be the exact location of where the plane supposedly turned into the South Indian Ocean around 1840 UTC. And that raw telemetry data was not made publicly available until May 28th, 2014, which is 9 days after the video was published. So the person, if they made these videos, knew a lot about the plane, more than the public really knew. And they produced it really quickly with information that would have been military classified information and information that wasn't really publicly available.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. So you're 100% confident that the plane in the videos is that. Otherwise, the rest doesn't make sense, right? The rest of the investigation doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if that's
Right.
not the, I mean, if that's not the plane in the videos, then it's pretty damn weird that, I mean,
Right.
the
Yeah.
location and the time and the dates of the videos, like either that's actually the plane or someone's really trying to make it look like it is to like a really scary degree. Because I think that the people that were older, potentially like our age or above, like they're going to remember when that plane went missing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And everything was obfuscated. We had no idea what was going on. Like we thought the plane was in the South China Sea. It wasn't for weeks later until people started to have like some real idea of what the flight path of the plane was, which really narrows down the possibility of like, being able to make that video and what it implies, in addition to all the evidence said before. But it is
So
a
you're
common
basically
question.
saying, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for me, it was all, well, I got to determine that that's the plane in the videos before I even
Oh, yeah,
determine if the videos look real or not. Because what's the point otherwise? But
absolutely.
okay, so you're basically saying that the flight, I'm just trying to steel man this back to you, make sure I understood what you
Sure.
said to me, right? So the flight path in the videos, I guess through satellite imagery could only have been that plane.
Yeah, the
Is that what you're
plane
saying?
is first going northeast towards Beijing from Kuala Lumpur, and then it goes dark and it turns and flies back over the peninsula of Malaysia, and then weirdly takes a course correction after it gets over Penang, which is the closest airport to land in an emergency situation, and then goes northwest through the Straits of Malacca, Andaman Sea to the Nicobar Islands, where we then see the coordinates in the videos happen. Plane is turning south into the east in there as well. And then this is the location where they say, well, the plane turned into the South Indian Ocean and just flew down to the South Indian Ocean, which was weird because if you're a suicidal pilot, you wouldn't course correct over Penang. You would just fly directly over Indonesia. You're not afraid of planes coming to get you. In fact, the planes weren't even chasing them when they should have been. So
Yeah.
it makes much more sense from the perspective of not being some kind of emergency event that's out there.
Got
So
it.
yeah, just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, for sure. Of course. All right. Is it
One
cool?
last thing, sorry if I
Yeah, go
forgot,
ahead.
as well as
Go ahead.
the satellites. So early on, we were tracking every single satellite that was in orbit. You can use this website. I think it's called like planet365.com or something. It's a pretty obscure website, but it has amateur historical trajectories of all the satellites that were in orbit, and they're very accurate. And satellites they move around the Earth in a very predictable way. They can't generally change their speeds either. And turns out USA 229, which is a naval ocean surveillance satellite pair, was right over there at the Straits of Malacca at 1840 UTC, basically staring down at the coordinates we see as well. This is significant because this satellite is a rare pair set. Most satellites are just one satellite, but this one has a pair next to it. All naval ocean surveillance satellites do. And the first video from Regicide Anon is in 3D stereoscopic, which is side by side, but not duplicated. Like it's actually two different, slightly different perspectives. Now, skeptics have argued that YouTube had that functionality to turn a video into 3D stereoscopic, and that's the only version I think that's out there. There's several different versions that are out there, but that's the only one that's stereoscopic. So we don't know if it requires two satellites. We have two satellites staring down, and they're at approximately the right angle for the right time. We don't know the exact time the plane's disappearing, but within a few minutes. And then, they are in the right location. So, either way, we know the United States government knows what happened to this plane. They've got spy satellites like right over where it supposedly disappeared and wasn't being tracked. They have the SOSA system, which heard the Titan sub pop. So we know they have acoustic systems that can hear tiny submarines implode in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So hearing a plane crash into the South Indian Ocean, there's a hydrophone system in Western Australia and one at Diego Garcia. They had to have detected it. The radar systems would have detected it too. It's weird that they claim that Malaysia lost contact with it around 1822 UTC, 18 minutes before we think the videos happened, and that nobody had it on radar for 8 hours, 6 more hours or whatever it is. It flew right past Coco Islands base, flew within range of Diego Garcia's radar. The Joran system in Australia should have seen it. They have a very advanced radar, and the Pine Gap military base. So the biggest thing I want the people to know out there is like we know with 100% certainty that the United States knows what happened to this plane and more than was let known to the public. The question then just becomes, what are they hiding? Why did they bring that up? Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that's okay. That's very interesting. Well, look, if it's cool, can we share the screen here and you play the videos?
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see what this all the hoopla is about that everyone's. Look, I'll be honest. When the stereoscopic video, like when that is first brought up, that's like, okay, this is like this one right here. When I first saw that, I thought, dude, I've never seen that for a hoax before, right? Like that was a unique element that did add some legitimacy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so here it is. If you want to give us
the 3D stereoscopic part is nuts because we know that we're not like just looking through a satellite here because these coordinates only move when they move the perspective of the screen. And so that means it's not a satellite that's flying really quickly because otherwise that number would be moving all the time. So the question really is
changing its coordinates, right?
Yeah, we're changing the coordinates because these coordinates are accurate to 6 decimal places that we'll see in the bottom left here when I play it. And so, we know that this is some kind of computerized generated system where they're relaying information to a ground-based computer that's essentially building some kind of video playback of the entire plant, some kind of spy system. And then also we know it's cropped because this mouse, a few seconds ago, I'll just scroll back for a second here. You see this mouse here. This mouse comes off the screen from the top right, and then it disappears in a second to the bottom left, which means this screen's got to be bigger, much bigger.
Gotcha.
What we're looking at. So this is a cropped field of view.
So it's a screen record.
Yeah, it's a screen recording, exactly. And, this isn't from a camera or something. And this is also, if somebody tried to make it fake it in terms of like somebody filming it with a camera, it would look way different. It's also interesting because if this is a real video, that means the person knew they were going to get caught because you're screen recording, you logged into the system looking at this thing. You got to imagine security, right, to protect this satellite system. Sure. And so that's why I identified early on that somebody who would have got caught with this had to happen early. Now, this first orb, one thing I've just realized is that this is a hypersonic weapon. I mean, it can also be a tool, but what's the difference between a weapon and a tool? Just how you use it. Sure. Now, and this is potentially more advanced than a hypersonic missile because it's not using any traditional propulsion that we can see. But it is using the same mechanism and method of a plasma orb around it in order to prevent friction from occurring.
Where's it coming from exactly? Like it just comes out from the top of the screen, but do you think it's coming from the upper atmosphere?
Some people have speculated it could be coming from either a satellite or from another plane, or you will see in a second here, and this version is going to be tougher to see, so I'll run through this quickly, and then we'll switch to the other one. But the second orb comes from the water. It's pretty clear to see when you look at it in the high-quality version. This orb also punctures this cloud right here very slightly, but it is a noticeable graphical difference that people have looked into in depth, which is pretty strong evidence for one of the strongest debunks out there that this is a 2D cloud picture that we're looking at here.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. I've seen
So
that.
also, real quick,
Okay.
I want to point out that this orb does not hone in on the center of mass right away, which is an odd scientific detail to add in here.
What does that
It's
mean?
like,
What do you mean by that?
so what these orbs are trying to do is create a perfect sinusoidal 120 degree 0 point field around the plane, which means the equilateral triangle. And the point of this is that if you all shoot your beams at the same time at it, they're all going to perfectly cancel each other out. And
Got
that's
it.
what we need to do in order to induce this singularity that we're going to see here in a second.
Got it.
So the fact that it doesn't catch it right away seems like it's trying to target it. And then the other ones, what
So
you'll
you
notice right
think
away,
it can come up to the plane and sort of hitch on in a way, like a
yeah,
magnet, sort of like
using some
stuck
type
at
of
a
resonance.
certain
Yep,
distance. Yeah. Okay. I see
exactly.
what you're saying.
But
Okay. I hadn't heard that before.
the weird part is this, though. What you're going to see is the second one gets into place right away. Like it doesn't have any trouble tracking. It actually gets into a place where you could imagine there's a 3D triangle around it. And
Got
this is
it.
the
Got
part
it.
where the people that recreate the videos kind of fail at because they don't notice these details. But these
Sure.
details are extremely important because they really tell us a lot of information about how these orbs operate.
Context matters. I'm with you, man.
So
100%.
watch the second orb. It immediately gets into configuration as if there's a third orb.
Yeah. Where did that second one come from? I didn't even see. Is that the
Look at
one
that
you
one
say
in the
came
higher
from the
quality. That was
water?
the one that came from the water. Yeah. And now the
Okay.
orientation changes. They first are encircling the plane. People have mapped it out, and it's a perfect sphere around the plane. Now, it's not like every point is covered, but it's a sphere.
Sure.
And then they change in this ring formation here that you're going to see. And the ring formation now, assuming these videos are real, is because you're creating a 2D plane in a 3D environment. Basically, you're
Okay.
focusing on the center of mass of the plane here. You're getting an alignment, and then you are
Oof.
converging on the last second. One other quick detail I want to point out here before this one goes off is that you can see if you watch closely, it's hard in this version, but we've looked at in different speeds that these orbs actually slow down when they get to about this cloud here. And
Got it.
that's because they're actually reorienting, which you can see in the second video as well. And the point of that is if you're using your gravity engines or whatever fly forward, in the last second, you're going to converge them and then you're just going to collapse.
So do you think these orbs are completely spherical? Do they have somebody piloting them? Their drone? What do you think
No, I don't
is
think there's definitely nobody in these. And this is the part where
okay?
people think that I believe they're aliens or something, but I don't think there's anybody in these. And the more I
Got it.
looked at these videos, the more I ruled aliens out. It's just not necessary.
How
In order
big do you
for
think
stuff to
those
be real.
orbs are? Like
They're
in
about, it's been
comparison
mapped
to
compared to the
something?
size of the plane, and it's about 30 feet in diameter, which is pretty wide. I mean, that's like, 3 stories
Yeah.
almost. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty big field. But the thing is, it's not like a ball, like a metal ball. It's a field around a much smaller object. The coherent matter wave
Okay.
patent by Lockheed Martin, where we think this is the kind of microchip technology they need in order to induce these effects, is 10 microns in length. That's like a little bit bigger than like a bacteria. It's not.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's
It's
like
like
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
So like these things
So
can
this
be
is a
tiny.
close up of
Sweet. So this is the high definition one, and in this one you can see the
got it.
bottom left a lot more clear. And you're going to be able to
Okay.
potentially see the second orb come into play here as well. That's the only reason why I'm playing this one. So I'm going to pause it real quick just so you can see. It's going to come from about where my mouse is down here. I think it's actually
Got it.
next to this little dot here. There it comes. So I don't know if you saw it there. It's kind of faint.
No. Oh, dude, can you go
Here, let
back
me.
to sorry,
I actually
sorry.
have a color. Let me pull up the color change version for you real quick. Yeah, here it is. This one makes it a
That's
lot easier to
interesting.
see.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Watch this. You see it there now?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more time. It's
Yeah,
like down
that's
here where my mouse is.
interesting.
Yeah. That is really bizarre because
So
that
it
one
does
might be
look like
coming
it's
from, like, a
coming
submarine
out
or
of the
something.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're
definitely
right.
coming
It
from
does
the
look like
water.
it's coming, and it kind of makes like a whoosh up, right? Like a
Yeah, it's like an arc right here that it makes when it
yeah,
comes
an
up.
arc. Yeah.
There it is, and then it comes up
Yep.
through the cloud, but it misses
Through
the
that
cloud.
cloud.
Like it doesn't go through it, but like it's our
Just
perspective that we
barely.
can't tell.
And that third one,
Comes from like this top left, which
who
yeah,
knows
I
where
don't
it's
know. I
coming
mean,
from, right?
it's hard. That's the problem. We can't tell. Um,
That is
yeah,
interesting if you were faking these videos that you would make 2 come out of the screen and 1 just come out of the middle, if
yeah.
that makes
It's
sense. I mean,
the
I
whole.
don't know,
There's a
that seems
lot of these
odd.
small details that are really odd, like the mouse in general. Why do you have a mouse that makes it look like you're logged into a Citrix
I
session?
mean, for sure, you're right. Why
And then
would
the
you do that?
cropping of it as well. Like, why is it cropped? So yeah, and there goes the plane again. And then it's like, and why this last part where they scroll over to the right to show us that like now the plane's not just like over here somewhere, it's just straight up gone.
Yeah, you're
You know,
right.
that's
That
like
is
somebody's like
interesting.
intentionally telling, like if these are fake, then someone's trying to tell us like a spy novel. They're trying to tell us a story about
It does
what
when it pops off though, like it just goes white. Like it does look
happened.
weird. Like
People ask why is it white as well. I just want to pause for a second. And because it's black in the thermal, the full thermal, and both of them are technically in infrared. But these cameras are not cameras you're getting at like Costco or off the shelf on Amazon. Like these are military
yeah,
cameras, and we found videos in some of the infrared where it's inverted, where black is actually hot in the infrared when it's white and black like that. Like we've seen missiles where they do that.
sure.
So it's possible that it's actually a cold event and it's just white in the satellite video, and why it's going to be black here. And that's really
Can we go
important.
back to that other video real quick,
Oh yeah,
dude?
sure.
Just one last,
Absolutely. Any other detail? What
just
part do you
real
want me to go
quick.
to, or do you want to just watch the whole thing?
Just the very end where it disappears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I
yeah,
just want
this
to
is
make sure
right
I'm
before it goes.
understanding what's happening. So they're all three there.
And this one's more
You
about
can
the
pass
pattern
through.
because you see more details in the other video in terms of what's exactly happening. They're slowing down a little bit there, and then they
Yeah.
converge. It's only 6 frames per second compared to the mouse that we see here, which is 24 frames per second. So that's either these are fake and somebody faked in a Citrix session. With a lot of people don't even know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, I don't
But
know
the
what
idea
that
that
is.
they're I don't mean to offend you that way, but no, a
No,
lot
no,
of
yeah.
big
There's a lot I
businesses,
don't
for a
know. I'm
fact,
not
like
offended.
almost basically every big business that's out there, when you log into their environment, you have to log in through a Citrix session. So, for example, I work at hospital databases. On hospital databases, sometimes the system is hosted remotely, like it's hosted in Africa. No, it's somewhere in the United States. I just don't want to say where exactly. But the idea is then that when the people that are using the system at the hospital, they're not logged into local computers that are there. They're connected to the database farm that's in Utah or wherever they are.
Got
Right.
it.
And so this is the same idea here, is that this is a ground-based system that is relaying information for various satellites, all the satellites, probably dozens at the same time. And they're
Got
using
it.
that to build Google Earth, but in real time, where they have 6 frames per second video satellite coverage of most of the planet, if not the whole planet at this
Sure.
point. And so, if they're faking that into the video, that's a pretty weird detail to fake in, is you want us to make it look like a spy satellite video to a degree where you're adding these satellite numbers and designations in the bottom left.
That match perfectly.
Yeah.
Right.
Matched
Yeah.
to the system, the Cyber system that we didn't even know about. 2006, that's the first launch.
I mean,
That's
that's
what it says in
interesting for
22.
sure. The plane right there, see, that looks real, man. That I'm just
Oh, yeah.
saying, just right off the bat, like that looks like a real plane flying. The shadow, dark
Yeah, the
contrast.
shadow part is the big question there is the contrast because of the coloring of the plane where the bottom is gray, or is there some directional light? The problem is I've looked at this video hundreds of times and I can't tell if there's directional light where it's coming from. And I think instead what we're looking at is a
sun.
nighttime video.
Oh,
Yeah, the
this is
problem is
nighttime?
yeah, this is nighttime. I think they have capabilities to make nighttime look like daytime, and it looks just like this, where you can even see the blue skies or water. It's very
Yeah,
nutty. So that's
that's
why
interesting.
this is most likely nighttime. Because when you look at the clouds,
Okay.
like I can't tell like what direction, because we know this plane's flying east.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
a
can
good
tell that
point.
based on the coordinates. It's going like south and then to the east in that video. And then the zap, yeah, I mean the zap is just wow.
What do you think is
The
happening
part
with
about the
that
zap,
zap?
I've definitely got to mention here. This
Right
part
there.
right here,
Yeah.
this is illuminating the clouds correctly in the background, next to the plane, in the foreground, and on the left here in the background. In order for this to be accurate the way it is, where it looks 100% real, is that they would have to use a full 3D rendered environment to get the directional pointing of the light correct. Well, this is where people think they can use After Effects, not the way that this shows up, because we've already got like a still picture, which I've got out there somewhere, which I can share later, but that they've done the comparison and it's full 3D rendered correct lighting, as opposed to just being like uniform lighting everywhere on this. So
what
this
do
part
you
here
think
is
is
like the
happening
strongest
there?
evidence this video is real. Yeah, so we have our endothermic event here happening. So
Okay.
the other thing that actually just recently I've started to understand is scalar physics, is the idea that you can cancel out, completely negate the electric and magnetic potentials, and this leads to not nothing, but something is left over. And that something left over is the scalar, which is this longitudinal wave that is essentially a very powerful, I'm going to say this correctly, has the capability to essentially create anti-gravity or a force. And then the question is, how do you amplify that force to get the direct force that you want? But this also requires the understanding that space isn't empty. It's not that there's nothing there. And this idea that there's an extra dimension. And this extra dimension is really important because this is where the negative entropy comes from, negative energy, which is what we see essentially happening in this video. And that probably sounds like science
what is
fiction,
like
which I
no
totally
no
understand.
honestly, it just
because it did for
sounds.
me as well. But
I mean, they
um,
talk about Big Bang and other stuff. I mean, that sounds crazy too, right? So, like, no, but let's think of it like in just the most layman terms, dude. How would you explain what you think is happening there, right? This layman, you explain to a
yeah,
child here.
absolutely. So the easiest way to explain it is that energy is being sucked out of the area between the orbs. And when they're
Okay,
being sucked out to this amount of degree, it's creating a rip in the fabric of space-time. And this is like a
got it.
wormhole. So it's the same
Okay,
idea as if I take this piece of paper here, technically a napkin or a paper towel, and we're doing this to space-time here. Now, it doesn't
got it.
look like this when we do it in reality, but this is just a crude approximation of the idea.
Sure.
The real idea is we don't perceive the cloth at all. And so when we see this happen, we can't even perceive it because it's happening on a higher dimension that we don't see. Sometimes people have tried to show like a 3D object going through like what it would look like in a higher dimension. And you like just see like a cutaway of it. This is
Yeah.
the same essential idea as that. And then the
Do you
real question
think?
here is where's this going? Where's this getting slingshotted to? It's like a rubber band. If you were to pull it apart and then you let it go, this plane is being slingshotted to somewhere else. And that could theoretically
Somewhere,
be
sure.
anywhere, but it's going to be wherever we have our other object. We like to call it the fourth orb somewhere else. So this is a quantum entanglement effect. And what we're seeing here is called phase conjugation, macroscopic phase conjugation. And that's what's
Okay.
needed to make the scalar physics, which is this idea that we can produce this amount of energy at a specific point, just like we see here, is the idea that uh so sorry, I apologize. Oh, the phase conjugation. So if we have a wave going this way, what we need
Okay.
is a wave going exact opposite way to cancel it out, to perfectly
Got it.
cancel it out. We're having the waves
Okay.
make love with one another. If we were
Yes.
have them like cause the opposite type of effect, then it would be an explosion. We're saying that these waves are going to interfere in a way where it's going to amplify them, make them explode, or what have you. Otherwise, in this case, we're making them cancel out. When they cancel out, there's nothing there. There's a potential that's left over, and then we're increasing that potential to the point where, poof, we see this pop. And when we look at the second video here, there's better detail, which will help it to be visualized in more sense. Now, this means it's very important that the triangle is equilateral. The plane has to be the exact center of mass of it. And the reason for that is when you focus these effects, we have to perfectly cancel them all out. Just like I said, the waves have to cancel each other out. They have to get perfectly in phase. And once they cancel each other out, that means that all three have to be in the exact right point. So, in terms of this being controlled, I think that one of the hardest parts to believe is in 2014, did we have supercomputers or AI that could get these orbs to lock into this plane? Because there's not somebody piloting these. It's way too precise and too small, and the plasma field feels like it might kill somebody. So, this is the
Let
part
me
where it's
ask
like,
one
yeah,
question real quick. What do you think there's any other outside force not shown in the video that's helping these three orbs? Does that
yeah,
make sense what I'm saying? Is
yeah,
there
yeah.
maybe some main thing where it's
Yeah.
connecting and making this happen, or do you think it's just the three orbs on their
Yeah.
own?
Since this is basically radar waves, and this is the part where I think people in ufology should realize, like, even if this was UFOs from another species or something like that,
Yeah.
just because they're this advanced does not make you invincible. In fact, if this is produced by radar waves, then using radar waves on it is like just throwing it off, like hitting the steering wheel of it. This is where you can cause them to crash. This is,
Okay.
in my opinion, the most logical explanation for why there's a Roswell crash. If that was real, like then I think that we hit it with a radar and it just knocked it out of the sky. And in
That's
this case here,
interesting.
these could actually be targeted by a radar. Now you don't see anything on the ground; it's over the ocean, so it doesn't. It seems like they could either be programmed remotely via computer, or this is where I think you would need AI in order to be like controlling these. That's the level of like future technology I think we're talking about here. It all doesn't seem that far advanced anymore in 2024. But in 2014, if you had said no, these are being programmed by AI, people have been like, no, AI is not, that's just like a movie thing.
I don't
So
even think
yeah,
I knew what that was back then,
yeah,
if I'm
I
honest. I'm
definitely
not even
didn't.
sure.
I thought it was just some kind of futuristic thing then now, but
Well,
now
I would
everybody's
have
making
known
videos and stuff
artificial
about it, right?
intelligence, but not like AI. Like that term really took off, right? Like that hot term. So yeah, I get what you're saying for
Because people
sure.
would otherwise say like, "Oh, the movements in those orbs, nobody could do that." And now we can be like, well, "Yeah, well, AI can figure that out like within, just a few
Well, I mean,
seconds. It
that's a
can
good
probably
point
render
for
that.
sure.
It's a big difference now. Now here's the
All right, so
second
this
video.
is the
This is a
yeah,
drone.
this is the second video. Do they have names, by the way? Each video, like, do
Yeah.
they
So the
have
first video
specific
is
names?
satellite video, airliner, and UFOs, but it doesn't say
Okay,
MH370 in the title, which is kind of weird. But it does say
and
satellite
that's how
video.
they uploaded the video with that exact
Yeah,
title,
the
or what?
first person, Regicide Anon. We don't know if they were the person that this got leaked to, or if they were somebody that picked it up when it got dropped somewhere on the web. We can't really tell, but we do know that the Regicide Anon account argued with one of the later posters of the video, which was a couple months later, or like a month later.
And no one
And
has come forward saying they're Regicide Anon.
No, nobody with any credibility. I've had a lot of people fake a lot of stuff,
Well,
but
that's a good point. That's a
but
good
nobody
point.
with any
Yeah, for
credibility. I
sure.
mean, you come forward with like this, you got to be coming forward with like hard evidence. Like, oh yes,
Because
here's the
wasn't there
file I
like
got.
a?
Even then,
I mean, no, you're right. I would
yeah,
want
I mean,
undisputable
I've
proof
had
if I
people
were
fake
you. So I'm
metadata
with
on
you.
files, send it to me.
Yeah,
So
I
gotta be
can't
like,
even. That's what I'm saying. Like I know
gotta
for a
make a
fact
lot of sense.
you've been effed with. Like I know
Yeah.
for a fact you have been effed with,
Oh yeah,
and again, that doesn't hurt. That doesn't help. Trying to look into
that's
this.
just life,
But
though. That's no big deal.
no, for sure. So look, real quick,
Okay.
before we start this video, there was maybe I should have brought this up at the beginning. Wasn't there like a huge? I don't want to call it bounty or reward. What's the
Oh
right
yeah,
term? I don't know, but it was like
yeah.
50K. Am I remembering that right?
150,000. Yeah.
$150,000.
And
Oh,
nobody stepped forward. And we're talking
shit.
Kim.com, who's like a multi-millionaire. You know,
Let's
Kim.com
get
put up
behind.
100
Let's
grand.
pretend we did it. Let's get behind the
No,
scenes.
that's what I told people
Let-
several times on my stream. I was like, guys, if these were fake, if I even had an iota of thinking these videos were fake, I would be looking for this hoaxer so hard for that 150,000. People think I'm like super rich or something. No, dude.
Totally.
I would be
No.
fighting people trying to, dude. I would. Hey, can somebody put up a bounty to prove the videos are real? Because I'll take that.
That's a good point,
150,000.
man.
Honestly, I really will.
That's actually a great point. I mean, so Kim.com offered $150,000 if someone could come forward and
He
prove
offered
they made
100,
the
and then I
videos.
had two people who like saw that, and like one of them's Chad and Sherry from Investigate Earth. Some of the people out there probably see me go on their show several times. Quick plug to them; they're doing video content right now as well. They threw up.
Yeah.
I think it was either 20 or 25. I get confused which person threw up which, but and they're good for it. I knew for a fact they were good for it, and they were serious.
Wow.
And then yeah, and then like
Wow.
because I've been on their show several times, and if you look at the numbers on their show, you'll realize it's not a big problem for them. And then
And no one came forward.
yeah,
Well,
and
I
then
guess people came
yeah.
forward, but nothing could be proven, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple people like, I made the videos, but then the problem was that their story fell apart. Everybody had some issue with their story, or it was not plausible to begin with. The bounty was always for them to come forward, but with like absolute proof. Like you had to bring the video
100%.
files that you used to create, right? So,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
the way Kim.com said it was that I want to see the plane without the orbs or something like that, or without the plane or whatever it was. I think it was without the orbs.
Sure.
And the
I
zap.
got you.
Because he figured, oh, it must have been overlaid over the video somehow. I think a lot of people thought that as well. And then for me, I said, no, like I need you to bring the files that you used when you created this. Like show me the rough draft that you did, because you've done editing and stuff like that, dude. So if somebody's
you've got
making something like
different-
this, you're gonna have
100%.
backups of this and stuff and what have you while you were
Absolutely.
producing it. You don't lose all your work.
100%. This wouldn't be your final one. You would have made several.
Yeah, exactly.
first,
So this is the
to
part where I
see how
say
it
like
works, how it looks. Yeah, you're right.
and so that's the part was like somebody, and you're not throwing this away. If you got this, if you did this much work to make these, like let's watch this while we do it. You know, in that case, you know, you would want to flaunt it. I think you can get a job anywhere with this. This is crazy.
No, I
like,
mean those are good points, man. I'm not gonna lie. Those are definitely good points.
so
Because they just
here,
threw it up randomly on YouTube with no real
yeah, like
knowledge
no
that this
small
would
account
take
with
off.
no followers
Yeah,
or anything
like,
like
no-
that. Like
exactly no real way to know that this.
it's not like
would
this was
take
the
off
corridor
way it
crew.
did.
They've done like an actual fake job that fooled, I think, Reddit or something like that. I haven't
A
looked into
couple
it, but
times they have.
a couple times. Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen them do that twice. Not a fan
now-
of that, to be honest with you. them
No, it's
doing
pretty
that.
scummy, you know, because it shows bad faith. But in terms of like
I do like
full-on-
those guys. I mean, we'll probably disagree there, and that's fine. I've been fans of those guys for years. Like I've watched them just for other stuff, not even any of that, if that makes sense. Like I've just been fans of them for so long. It's like a loyalty thing.
I think
man.
they're
Like,
not
I
the
got no
content
problem
that's
with it.
not related to them sitting on a couch is fine. Like when they actually do real work. I've seen so I'll watch a couple of videos,
Yeah.
clips from them, and like that's real stuff. When you sit on a couch and just mock stuff and splice,
They do.
cartoons
They're very
in, like,
dismissive of it. I agree. I wish they
pretty
had a
whack.
different approach to it. So I'm
be
with you there. I
scientific,
do
you
agree
know,
with
they
that.
should be scientific.
So people have said that because these came out so quickly after the airline disappeared, that it'd be impossible to do these visual effects. How fast could you guys do these shots?
Real fast.
Yeah.
As little as an hour.
Yeah.
So real quick on this video, I want to show that this is a drone of an MQ-1C. It can also be a Reaper or a MQ-9 Reaper because they have the exact same body.
Okay.
But the MQ-1C like just fits better with the dates. Like the MQ-9 was quite a bit more recent than this one has been out there for decades. And you can
You're
see
saying
the
this is
brain
the
right
model of the drone
here. Yeah.
flying.
Like, I mean,
this,
we can
right?
see the drone nose here in this, right? You just go look
Yeah,
at
that's
pictures
true.
And the thing
That's
is, you can
true.
find a picture of the MQ-1C with the camera under the wing because these have detachable loadouts where you can switch them out. Seems very useful actually for these drones. I bet they're very efficient for
I guess I
the
never
military.
noticed the what do you call that? The viewfinder thing, that the four corners there. I guess
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never
and there's
noticed
a
that
Corsair here as
before.
well. And this
I
has been
never
set.
noticed
They've
that.
removed the HUD data. There's no HUD data. This isn't like the 2017 videos. There's no HUD data here, and it's not in black and white. It's in like a
You
standard
think this is
thermal
cropped?
variant. This one, no, I don't think so. I think this is actually the full camera, and I think that they changed the settings. I think they removed the HUD data on the settings, and I think that I don't know if this is the original color, and they just always give us black and white because they don't want to show capabilities off, or if this was
Okay.
changed to blue. But I think people have speculated. Some people have said, and it's hard to like confirm the credibility of these people when you read people's comments, but I've seen several people who claim to be former operators say that this is actually the default variant in terms of the color because it gives more information. But I
Let's
don't
just
know
play
in
this
terms of
here
black
while
and white.
we're
Yeah, let's just do that.
while
So
we're
I
chatting
pointed
here.
out we've been talking for a little bit, so let me go through
No,
this.
no worries.
And the smoke stacks up accurately as if the camera's moving. The camera shake is probably some of the best evidence this is real, and the fact that it's a manual tracking, like he or she loses track of the plane. So, and that's because there's a delay. Because like if this is actually, this is not like somebody like is on the drone. This is somebody maybe 1,000 miles away,
Yeah,
2,000 miles
for
away
sure.
operating this. So there's a little bit of a delay. It's a lag, and the
So wait,
camera
so
shake
so this
increases.
drone is just flying around randomly and just happens
No,
to
no.
spot the
This has to be an
MH370?
operation. Has to be an operation. And it's funny because Chris Leto, he was one of the first people to look at the video before I even went on his show. And when he saw
Yeah.
this part, I remember watching his take on it. And he goes, "Whoa,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
flying really close underneath the wake of the plane. This has to be like an operation, like a weapons test." And other people
Oh,
have said operation
interesting.
as well.
I mean, that's a
Because
good
it's
point.
just too close to the plane. You don't have
Like
planes
it's
fly this
following it,
close. Yeah, it's
right?
following it.
Essentially.
So the
Yeah,
question really
okay.
here is, did it deploy and catch up to the plane, or was this an operation from the beginning? Or they had it planned ahead of time and they knew exactly, like it was a rendezvous
Sure.
point. And
Orbs and drone together, right? Like let's
yeah,
let's film what we're
you
about to
got it.
do.
I definitely, just based on looking at it, this is definitely, they're looking at it intentionally here because they're trying to collect information on it. They want to see the heat signatures. They want to show us the heat signatures on these
I mean, that's
orbs.
super interesting. It does look, dude. I mean, I know we're just chatting here, right? So like
Yeah.
it does just look fake, man. Like just looking at right, like didn't you have
You
that
think
first
so?
thought when you first saw this?
Oh, when I first saw it in 2014, absolutely. I had no idea. So
Yeah.
I saw this in 2014.
I get all the
And
context and everything you're providing, but I'm just saying, just like again, I don't know anything about this. I'm just someone plays
yeah.
me this video. What's my first
No, I think that's
reaction
good
is
because I
like,
think I want to think about it in terms of the people like Joe Rogan and Ross Coulthart and Jeremy Corbell, who they think that they're
yeah,
looking at fake stuff here as well.
yeah.
And here's my pitch for you on that. Look, 10 years ago, I saw this video one summer. This was before I was even interested in UFOs. I was interested in plane crashes. Somehow I saw this video. When I
Here,
saw
just
it
leave it
again,
playing while you tell the
yeah,
story. That way it just
okay, yeah, it's gonna
plays.
end. Yeah, we can run through it. I saw this video here, and I'll just let this go because I was going to contextualize it here, but and I ignored it. I just thought this had to be fake. I didn't even know what the hell I was looking at here. I didn't even know what a drone video would look like back then. And it's only now in the last few years when I looked at this and saw this in August where I was convinced right away this is actually what it looks like. Now, it doesn't look like what I expect because I have no frame of reference for what to
Yeah,
expect.
that's a
But
good
then the
point.
more you look at the details, you realize there's too many small details, including right now. Why did they add this part into the video? This is from the original video. We didn't edit this like this. So why are they showing us super close-ups of the orb floating around? And they want to see the heat signature in it. There's a heat signature spinning around on the axis. There it is. You can see it.
You know what I
That's actually a
never
heat signature
noticed till
spinning
now?
around the axis.
It looks like it's like a liquidish the way it
Exactly.
moves. Like it's like a
That's
ball
why
of
it's a ball
liquid. I've
plasma.
never noticed that
That's a
before,
ball
dude. I gotta
because this.
admit, that's pretty interesting.
And this is what I'm glad to talk about to you about it like this. And right there, it just reoriented. So there's so many small details in here. The heat signature that you see right there, this is where it's reorienting when it goes blurry. They're actually shifting around. And this is the
Yeah.
same part where it slows down the satellite video. You can actually see the same clouds. I'll show that in a second
Okay.
as well.
Sure,
And then the
sure, of
last
course.
frame, this part where the orbs blur right here, because they're bending. It's the electromagnetic field or the absence of it right there. If you want to think of there being a like a sphere around these three orbs connecting them, it's causing them to just like it's causing such a reaction in the middle of it where they're canceling out those waves and creating a scalar potential that the outside just flattening. The orbs on the outside just flatten. Just like if you were looking through a
Sure.
black hole and you see the star on the other side of the black hole, the gravitational lensing. This is exactly the same type of effect we're seeing here, which is really damn weird to add into your hoax video. So these are the things right away where I started to feel like they were real.
I mean, I agree with that, man, because you would just make them little balls.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
You
exactly. You're just making,
them
why have this
complete
heat signature in
circles.
there and have it go to the effort of having it spin around accurately as
The
well?
way it is moving like a little, I never noticed that detail before, man. When it's
Watch this
zoomed
part
in,
too. So this
you
is the
can
part that's really
literally
important.
see it doing that.
Yeah, the part, and that coincides when the orbs slow down in the satellite video when they reorient as well, like in the last few seconds. On this one here, it's important because you can see the lines in front of the orbs.
Now, these
Now,
are videos made after the fact by people, right? That have adjusted different aspects,
this
right?
one is, yes. This one has had the color removed
That's
from
what I
the
mean. Yeah.
background. Yeah.
Got
And
it. Got
I
it.
they just
Yeah.
changed the channels or the colors or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
this
sure.
is not an original. This is not one of the videos from the internet.
It's
But it
only
does
the other
show the
two we
black
saw,
lines
right?
here better. Yeah, those are the only
The
two that are original. Yeah.
stereoscopic and the
And the high
last
definition,
the previous
the
one.
high quality one is also a different version. There are a couple different versions. So as far as I know, there's 3, and then there's another version that somebody found from somebody who claimed to be one of the original uploaders, not like the very first, but like one of the, I don't know, a few months after. I think it was the Vimeo person, and they sent them back a different version, which is actually this one right here, which you can tell looks a little bit different than the other ones we were looking at. The colors like a little bit slightly different,
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
otherwise the details are pretty much the same. I think that they actually, their version has like both of them edited together as well. So we don't know if they modified it or what have you. There's no way to
Got
really know.
you.
But right
Okay.
here is where the
Yeah.
orbs are slowing down. The heat signature is important because, and this one actually, you can see the zap
See,
much
that one
more
looks
clearly.
different.
Yeah, look
Yeah,
at
I was
that.
gonna say.
Yeah. This is the only part where we saw this and we went, whoa, because that looks really accurate. Because now we need, what, is there another VFX out there that adds this weird pattern in the background you saw? Like, let me try to catch it. Right here. You see this weird pattern
Yeah,
around
yeah.
like this is an accurate pattern
Okay.
and it's accurate over here as well. This is where you don't even need to really change the color channel to see how real the lighting is. Like the lighting is on point. So the question there then is, okay, does somebody have another VFX pack, or is that also in the Pyromania VFX for this outer one? I mean, they claim that all of these are, which I think that none of them are. Um, Now, this is the last one I want to show you here as well, which is the clouds match. So the reason why the clouds match, in addition to the lighting, people say, okay, well, no, they did some magic trick and made sure that the lighting was somehow accurate. So we need more than that. So look at the clouds on this one in the same spots in both videos. First cloud, second cloud. First cloud, do it one more time. First cloud is, presume the first, that the drone is off the screen over here, somewhere at the top of the screen. We don't know exactly where. The first
Okay.
cloud we're seeing is not this cloud down here. The perspective is all messed up. We're seeing this cloud here in the background. We're
Got
seeing the
it.
drone in front of it, plane in front of it, and the plane's coming. It's coming from up here in this video. And then we see the second cloud, which is this big one right here next to it. And they're perfectly synchronized. The first cloud, second cloud,
I
first
see what
cloud.
you're saying. So you're
So
saying these have to be the same plane in the
So if somebody
video.
faked these, they need a full 3D render environment. Like if you had to make a diorama
Yeah.
back in like high school, or I don't know, whenever we had to do that when we were kids or whatever, like full 3D diorama to get both angles, to get
Yeah.
all the clouds correct, which to me is what rules out 2D cloud. They're thinking there's a 2D picture of a cloud in there. They would have to go to the effort to make 3D rendered clouds. And the reason why people don't want to believe that that's true is because that takes a long time. And if you look at the description, I remember from the beginning, I said the first one was received March 12th, 2014. So unless Regicide Anon was the faker or the hoaxer for whatever reason, that's only 4 days to have made that video
Pop
and
out a
push it out to
video.
the internet.
Yeah.
So this is the part where,
And
like,
tag it
if
with
you have a
that.
full story, like, what's your story here? Regicide Anon faked this video and edited lied about the description to like confuse people or something like that to make it seem more real, maybe. And the problem is that, like, where's Regicide Anon if that's the person who made it? So, to me, I think that my last pitch on the videos is that if those videos aren't real, why do they stack up with so much real world evidence for a case where a plane disappeared, where we never found the plane, we never found the black boxes, a few tiny pieces of debris washed up in Africa, which is 3,000 miles away? Which, how does that even drift there? Like tiny pieces, like imagine this piece of paper drifting 3,000 miles. There's no chance.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff
Yeah.
that drifted just makes no sense. It's when they look at the dates, it couldn't have drifted that far. So the question is, if it did crash, it probably crashed somewhere else where they don't think it is. And if it didn't crash, then those videos are the strongest evidence for what really happened, which show us smoke in the back of the plane. I didn't even mention that. Both videos have smoke coming out of the plane, where some people say, oh, well, it's contrails, but it's too low to be contrails. Like that plane, based on the clouds we see, is only flying at a few thousand feet in the air. It's not high up at all. And it's trying to land in the ocean as well. So it's like, if you made these videos, you had to build a whole storyboard for, like, okay, so plane was on fire and then it crashed into the ocean, because nobody even now thinks that the plane was on fire.
Sure.
So
Okay,
it's
that's
pretty damn
interesting.
wild. So these are a lot of just the contextual clues, and maybe it's hard for a lot of people out there to realize, but like because I've been like in these videos for the last 6 months and looking up all the evidence out there, but the outworld evidence just makes it even more shady. Like how nobody would give any specific answers about the plane, why the Malaysian Minister of Defense didn't send jets up. People are like, why didn't he say? Oh, he's just an idiot. It's like he might be an idiot, but he could also just be a liar. And they didn't send up jets because they knew it wasn't like a terrorist hijacking or a suicidal pilot. They weren't afraid of the plane crashing into the Petronas Towers. Some people think that they were trying to do that. It's not consistent with at all the suicidal event. They just didn't tell you that there was 400 or 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries, where there's like 2 huge pallets of it stacked up next to the electronics bay. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's
let's talk about
potentially
this a little bit.
gonna blow this thing
Let's
up.
jump into
Yeah,
like the pilot, the passengers, like some of the theories that are out there,
yeah,
and why this plane might have been targeted, right? Essentially.
yeah. And
So
so
batteries, what
yeah,
are
the
some
theory I'm
what's
on
this
right
one?
now, like most probability, I'm always open to more information, but my most probability right now is espionage, and I'd say I'm like 80 to 90% sure this was actually, and this gets to be like almost like movie level crazy, is that the United States government was preventing these free scale semiconductor engineers on board this plane from getting to China because they were running away. They were going to get taken away by the Chinese government, never coming back to the United States. They were working for Freescale Semiconductors, which is a company that I think was potentially making superconductors or devices that can produce room temperature superconductivity, high temperature superconductivity. And that we knew they were making little microchips that were like smaller than a dimple in a golf ball. So these guys were connected to U.S. aerospace and defense. They were named in a national security agency report. These guys are the motive for sure. 8 of them are Chinese nationals, 12 are Malaysian nationals, but they were working for an American company. They're all on the same plane together. Almost all of them are sitting next to each other. They're sitting in big groups, like giant groups, where it's like, okay,
And it is
why are
confirmed
they sitting next
they
to each
were
other?
on this flight.
100%. We looked at the Arwin from MH370X. Shout out to her. She did a huge amount of work mapping every single person who was on where they were sitting and exactly what their real name was. Because even if you look at back some of the evidence and some of the articles out there, it's not, they don't even have like big lists. The manifest wasn't even 100% accurate. Actually, I could be wrong about that, but I think that what we need to have to do is map the manifest and find like real bios about people on the internet, find out like this was really one of the, and then like confirmation that they actually were on the plane. So it was a huge amount of effort to find like the last
Sure.
5 or 10. Yeah.
So you're basically saying that you think whatever energy weapon was used to send these 3 orbs out and to make this plane disappear, get slingshotted somewhere. I think of the Prestige where it shows
Yeah.
the hats at the beginning,
Great
right?
movie,
Like
dude.
it's placed. Oh, I love that movie.
The difference is
Um,
that there's not 2 hats. There's only 1 hat. Like
correct. One
he's
hat.
trying to pull off
Correct. Correct.
teleportation, and in
That's
this
like a
case,
clone.
it doesn't make the clone in this case. In this case,
It sends that
spoiler alert,
thing there.
everybody out there. We might be spoiling that movie for people who haven't seen it.
Oh,
No,
obvious.
but yeah, it
20
just
years
sends it
old.
there. It sends it there, and it's doing it through the exact event we see. We never knew what a portal or
But
a
what I'm
wormhole
saying
would
is,
look
you
like,
think
but that's it.
it's a United States government weapon, or do you think it's
Yeah, in this case, I think it's
extraterrestrial,
United States government. So
interdimensional?
the fire event
Okay.
as well, like you could say, okay, the fire started accidentally, which is what I used to think, and then this plane's going to Penang because that's where it's going to try to land, and then it can't land there, and now it's going into the ocean because it's going to try to land in the ocean, and that's what we see basically doing in the video.
Okay, so you
Um,
think the plane is on fire? They're like freaking out, and they're like, "We need to land in the ocean," and
yeah, and
the
pray for the best, which is going to be
pray for
disaster.
the
Like
best.
this plane
And
hits the
so,
water, it's good night, everybody.
well, do you think? Okay, so do you think that the U.S. government planned to take this plane out in the air with this new weapon before it took off? Like
Yeah.
that was the
So
plan the
that's
whole
the
time,
thing
or
is where
when it caught fire, they were like, "Oh shit, get it
yeah,
out,
I think
get
they
them out
planned it,
now."
but here's the evidence. And I'm again, this is one of those things where I'm not 100% either way, and I've thought about it a lot, but
So
I
that
think that
fire on board the plane was like just
they have 1 hour
accident.
and 20 minutes. I think that yeah, it's either an accident or they set that like a bomb basically, but not to blow up the plane, but to intentionally like cause a diversion of the plane because it's flying and it goes dark in the South China Sea. So think of it like you're trying to go to your
Are they
destination, you're
trying to
like
get it?
halfway there, and then
So they're trying to get
you
it to a
stop
place to
right
do
before
it,
it.
like you see in heist movies where
So
they
then they
like
move it and they say,
put
okay,
up
we're going to send this to the
construction
diversion,
cones
which is
to
way
get
over
the
west.
armored truck to go another place where they can get to it, sort of thing.
That's the
Is
weird
that
part
what you
because
mean?
it's a lot like a movie, in terms of what
Well,
that
I just
the
mean
story
in the
is.
sense
No, I
that they
agree.
tried to. So you're saying that the fire was initiated potentially. Okay, I'm just saying potential. I'm not
Yep,
saying you're
to divert
saying
it.
that, but
No, I'm
potentially
saying it.
to divert it to a
I'm
place where
saying
this
it.
energy weapon could be yeah, where this energy weapon could be employed on this plane. And you think the plan was set ahead of time to do this, not last minute. This was planned.
Yeah,
Okay, we're going to
100%.
get the plane over the ocean. We're going to first have it a fire on board, have it divert it. The pilot will
Then we're
want to
gonna hit with
divert
the
it to
orbs, and
another
we're
place,
gonna teleport it
and we'll
somewhere.
hit it with the orbs.
And
So you
it's
don't
like, why
think
would you?
aliens are involved in this at all?
No, not at all. Not. I don't think there's any aspect this is aliens.
That's definitely a
other than where the
misconception that's
technology
out
comes from.
there for sure.
Good to
That's
flip
definitely
that.
a miss.
Nah,
Okay,
'cause
so that's interesting. You think maybe the technology that was used by humans potentially could come from ET tech, but
yeah,
you're not saying that. But just
yeah,
I guess that's
exactly.
true.
I mean, theoretically, but I've looked back to the history now, and I've tried to like figure out when did this start? When did we have scalar weapons? And I think we figured the science out in the 20s. I think we started to realize that it could be possible in the 40s with the Manhattan Project, and then by the 60s, I think that the Soviets back then, USSR, I think that they had figured the technology was real and we're starting to implement it. I think that
Yeah.
they fell apart, in the 80s was probably when the economic collapse. And I think that's the fall of Soviet Union was in the 80s as well. Could be wrong, if early 90s. But when that happened, then I think we pulled way ahead.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that we took the scalar technology from something where you had to use big radars and aim your radars at something and have them cross the streams, kind of like Ghostbusters, where
Got it.
now we have actually just full anti-gravitational drones, if you want to think of them like that. I think that those are our drones, but it's not like a
Wow.
traditional drone. It's encased in a plasma sphere, and the plasma
Yeah,
sphere
yeah.
is being created from the same technology that they're using to zap the plane. They're creating an anti-gravitational bubble. It's just more localized and has a different purpose. Like the implications of what you can do with this technology are almost endless. It really is like pulling us into the Star Trek world. Now, I'm not talking about teleport. Like actually, to some degree, and maybe in the far future, replicators might even be a real thing. Where if you can actually from the atomic layer using AI build up every single atom and then have it produce mass like this could theoretically even be possible. Now, keep in mind, there's always this idea of equivalent exchange. So when we watch these videos, we are sucking energy out of that location. Endothermic event, that black event is endothermic. And basically, we're just making that bubble of space-time disappear, and we can make it reappear wherever we want based on where the other fourth orb is or whatever trigger there happens to be. Some people think there's 3 other orbs. I think it just takes one more. You entangle them to that one. You zap it in this location, and
I
then you
see.
release the energy somewhere else where that plane is just going to reappear. There's probably going to be a flash on the other side. Honestly, if
What are
there's
they going to
more videos,
do?
I would be
Like,
like, whoa.
so you're saying, okay, it gets zapped somewhere else. So there's people there waiting for them somewhere, like on Earth somewhere,
This is
like
where
on
I
some
think it went
secret
near the
base or
Maldives.
what?
And the reason why I went to the Maldives is because there's a B777 fire suppression device that had to be empty because it floated and it washed up on shore of the Maldives. I think it was just a couple weeks later. So it couldn't have been that far away. And there was like 20 islanders on this small island, only has like 3,000 people. That's like a small size of a small town. This is like, uninhabited area for the
Yeah.
most part. And they see a jumbo jet, 20 different people on board the island. They see a jumbo jet in their early morning hours. And they can see the red and white stripe of the plane. Like they saw the plane
Where
there.
they
So,
see it in the air or on the
yeah,
ground?
in the air and pretty low. They say
Okay.
low enough where, one person says they saw it circle. And then they say that the way it went, it was to south to Diego Garcia. And so there's this evidence out there. You can look up Sergio Cavuduvo. Hopefully I'm not saying his last name incorrectly. They see it flying south towards Diego Garcia. Now the problem is like two issues here. So from the reason why people didn't believe this is because they couldn't figure out how the plane got to the west over there, and the direction of travel from the island was from the west. So why is the plane way over to the west when it should have been coming from the east? So this is why people
Okay.
mostly ruled it out. And then the satellite pings said that we went to the plane to the south. So this is another reason why people ruled it out. Now, from my impression, I think that the idea is that this plane teleported somewhere to the west. Remember the slingshot idea? It just went somewhere to the west, and then it appeared over there. The problem is that the timing 6:15 a.m. is actually fine with respect to the fuel. It's actually earlier than they think the plane crashed and ran out of fuel. But the issue here is that's a long time to be flying around because the time the plane disappears is at 1840 UTC. So it's like 5 hours after that somehow, maybe even longer because of the time change. I think it's like maybe in 6 hours later. So what did this plane do? It teleported somewhere over the south, the Indian Ocean, over the Western Indian Ocean, and just flew around in circles for hours? Or did it somehow, like in the movies, get time dilated to the future to a degree? Like, did it appear later on? Now, this is a weird idea, but it's actually consistent with physics. Is that if you watch the movie Interstellar, when they go near the black hole, which has a lot of
Yeah.
mass, and then they come back,
Yeah.
like 20 years have gone by. That's actually a real
Correct.
effect.
Yeah,
If you have a
yeah,
really, really strong mass, like the size of a black hole, which is kind of similar to if you have like a wormhole, you can
sure.
imagine that your time locally be slowing down. So you're going to see
Yeah.
everything else speed up really fast. But then all of a
I
sudden,
mean,
you're just
time
going to be
dilation
somewhere
happens
else.
on Earth just from gravity, right? They
Yep.
say.
Depending on how
I mean,
high up you are. So, yeah.
it's
But
minimal. But
you're impressing
so
me. You know
what?
some
What?
science.
I mean,
But
I'm stupid, dude. Don't
that's
worry
one thing
about
that
that.
like a lot of people
You know.
don't know that. So that's the weird part. Is they've
Um,
tested that. That's real. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, you're right. You're 100% right about that. So is when this thing gets slingshotted away, when it reappears, does it say have the same momentum? Because they catch it while it's flying. So did they when it reappears, is it still flying or it's stopped
It's a great
or
question.
does it make
It's a great
sense?
question too. Yeah, and supposedly with this technology, you can actually reduce inertia as well. So this could, in theory, violate the laws of thermodynamics and say that you can just set this thing down somewhere. Now,
Got it.
alternatively, I'm my personal opinion is actually it was probably still flying in the air. I don't really have any hard evidence for that from just watching the videos, interpreting it.
Sure.
The plane flying low, it feels like they're actually setting it up for wherever its arrival is going to be. Now, I don't think that they're like stopping it, but early on, I thought that might be the case because the plane's going slow when it turns. Like when you turn, you slow down. So it's almost like
Sure.
you're intentionally slowing down to get ready right for the zap because you want to be going as slow as possible when you get to the other side. Like you don't want to be
Got
going
it.
500 miles an hour
Yeah,
and
I
then
got you.
you teleport underground. Like that's
Boom. Yeah,
the last thing you want to have
correct.
happen. So that's the
Well,
part
like,
where I don't know.
is it a part where they have teleported things before? Is it a set place? Does that make sense? Like, is it a landing pad where things
Yeah, well,
get
Diego
teleported?
Garcia is
Is it
actually like the most secretive base on the planet, if not one of them. Pine Gap's up there as well. I think they're both crazier than Area 51. I mean, they're secluded. Like nobody's going to Diego Garcia. This you can't even
I
land
mean, I
commercial
never heard of
planes
that
there.
till right now. You saying it. Pine Gap, I've heard of, but I've never heard of
Oh, you never heard of Diego
Diego
Garcia?
Garcia.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
you need to know Diego Garcia, man. Definitely, especially in
No, I
UFOlogy,
mean, I
because
know I
I'm
worked
starting to
with the
think that
guy named Diego Garcia. He made the best breakfast burritos I've ever had.
no, but
But
yeah, this seems like a good place to high technology that found a lot of contracts. Like Lockheed Martin got like
yeah,
7 or 10 million for upgraded water and power in this place. So you're like Lockheed Martin upgraded water and power.
okay.
There was a bunch of
Mm,
dredging contracts for tens of millions. I think close to pushing 50 million to dredge up stuff. Like okay, that's a lot of money just to dredge up some rocks. You got to
yeah,
be building something under there,
you're
right?
right.
So
That's
I
interesting.
think that there's probably an underground base in this facility, and I don't think a lot of people have access to it. I also think they're probably testing some pretty advanced aircraft slash drones maybe out there because it's a
Yeah,
good spot. Nobody's going to see anything out there.
sure.
And they've got supposedly like a really impressive optical system and radar. I forget the name of the system, but there's this one system is like a joint system where there's only like one in various parts of the world, and they use them for either observation. What's it called? I forgot the name of it, but this is the kind of base where they have radar that can potentially see thousands of miles. Well, the most
Well,
advanced radar in the world, so they should have been able to
yeah.
track the plane start to finish. And there's a place where if you have an underground system, you can drop a plane down in an elevator and unload the passengers where it's away
I
from
mean,
everybody else.
that's a good point. What do you think happened to these people? Like, are they still alive? Are they being put to
Yeah.
work? They killed some of them and kept the ones you're talking about, these special
Truth is, I
people.
don't know, and this is what I would want to say. The families, like, no families have reached out to me. People wonder that a lot, actually, but none have ever reached out to me. And I don't really have a big reason to reach out to them. I mean, they can hear the story. I've done as many podcasts as there are out there. But if
Sure.
they are out there, I do want to give condolences because it seems extremely unlikely anybody lived through this, from the fire to having to intentionally depressurize the plane to get the passengers oxygen and only having a limited amount.
I mean, that's
The
a good
mask not
point.
lasting
Would
long
they even
enough.
survive that
Yeah, even before you get
transfer?
to the phase, before the phase
Yeah.
conjugation event where the
Okay,
plane
I
disappears.
see.
And then surviving the transfer, theoretically, there's wormholes that say you can survive the G forces. For them, it's like going through a doorway almost. But that's only assuming this technology is like 100% perfected as opposed to
Sure.
still experimental.
Well, I mean,
So
if it's going to
it could be
kill
bad.
everybody, why do it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. That's
What's
why
the
I think
point?
that
You just
I
want the
think they
plane?
expected some people to live. I think that they were trying to save
Yeah,
those free
that would
scale
be no
semiconductor
reason
plays.
to
But
do it.
two ways to look at it is one, it was successful and they silenced these people one way or another. Like they said, get back to work. You never talk about this. Here's your new identity, something like that.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not letting China ever have these people back and they're just sending back to the United States. They're in witness protection. That's where you send them, as witness protection. That's a lot of people to be in witness protection, but I think that we could silence it. It
I
does
mean,
seem
there's a
difficult.
lot of people in witness protection, way more than we think. I mean, in
Maybe
fact,
that's something to look into. Maybe
That's
look into
interesting.
how many people are in witness protection, because that seems like a
Yeah,
very
I would
interesting fact.
imagine a lot, and I would imagine even the number you see isn't the real one because you wouldn't want the real number out there, right? You would want it to seem low, like, oh, we don't even do that, but really you do it a lot, right? I mean, that would be the best misdirection, right? That's
But yeah, so that's where I think they would probably go, is that they get silenced like that. But again, I don't want to give any false hope. It's also 10 years later, so
look. I want to address that real quick because and I can relate to a lot of people that are going to be watching and listening to this because I probably had the same thought quickly, which was, oh man, this is kind of disrespectful to the people that lost their lives on this plane, right? Thinking about this, giving false hope that maybe they're still alive. But let's be real, okay? When you really sit back and think about it, first of all, like speculation, that's just what's part of human nature in the world. And we're in the UFO community. These are the kind of things we talk about, conspiratorial things. I mean, every story in the UFO would has that sort of inclination, right? So it's like that can't really be used. Nobody's being disrespectful. I've never seen you once be disrespectful about the families or anything like that or whatever. We're talking about something that was presented as evidence, right? These videos, and we're diving into you're diving into the story and the background of that. So I don't think that, me personally, I don't think that argument actually holds water, but I can understand how people initially thought that because I did think the same thing. But again, once I really thought about it, I thought, what, this isn't really being disrespectful. This is an
yeah, it's definitely
investigation.
not, man.
You're looking
'Cause, like,
into it, and yeah,
it's a cold case. First of all, the
yeah,
answer is
cold
they don't know
case.
what happened to the plane. It's not
Sure.
like they know or have any type of certainty in general. If you actually listen to what the families say, they will say they don't believe the official story. I've got basically all the ones that
Let's
can
be
speak English
real.
on.
Yeah, dude. I
I'm not
think
getting them all on
everyone can
CNN. It's
agree.
not like on sketchy things going. I've got literally Sarah, who is a boyfriend or girlfriend of Philip Wood, who's the only adult American passenger, on CNN and other channels various times saying that she doesn't believe the plane crashed. She believes that the plane was abducted. And, and in UFO world, abducted means pretty much what we see in those videos.
Yeah.
Um, but
I'm
I don't
sure.
think if they were upset and other of them are still fighting, like they want a new
Yeah.
investigation. So the reality is, when you get this far, you should be trying to think a little bit more outside the box on what happened to this plane, because we found nothing at the location where they claim that the plane crashed. And planes just don't crash in the ocean without leaving a debris field. I think that's why the families freaked out. I think it was us who are at fault for believing whatever crazy narratives. Like, it actually, in my opinion, hurts the pilot more to make this fake story about him being a suicidal pilot, because it literally just makes no sense at all. There's not even evidence for it. Is the biggest
That's
problem.
the leading,
I think that's the one that
mainstream
makes,
theory, right?
I think so. But even that, like, even if you
Let's
believe
just real
that, you're
quick,
not
let's
certain.
let's
You're
say
not certain.
what the story is, right? They're saying that
Yeah.
the pilot who was flying
So
this flight MH370,
yeah, they
take
took
it
it
away.
dark. They turned off the systems at the right time, and then they were trying to evade radar. Supposedly, is the narrative that's out there, and the batteries, these hundreds of pounds of batteries were on the plane, were totally normal. No reason to worry about those, even though it's a huge risk. And then they took the plane in a way where somehow they're not seen, although they're seen and flying over Malaysia for like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe longer. So they were being tracked, and this is the part where it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't send up drones or jets or whatever. They knew the
Yeah.
plane wasn't hostile, the defense minister says, and I don't know how you can know that without communications. So I don't really believe that the communications they set behind were all the communications. But then the pilot, supposedly after going over the nearest airport, they claimed that he was saying goodbye to his hometown, which is pretty nonsensical. Because that
What do you
doesn't
mean,
make any sense.
over the radio?
Penang, the area of Penang, apparently is like where he grew up or something. So they're trying.
But I'm
Some
saying
people try to
he
connect
was
it.
like on the
No,
radio
like
saying
like the narrative is literally as silly as like he grew up there, so he was only flying to the nearest
just
airport
flew over
because he wanted to say goodbye or something like that.
like
That was a
from like
literal narrative that was
or
out there that
something.
people
Yeah,
said.
I
I'm
mean
not
that
making
is
this up.
kind
This
of
is not a
crazy.
joke, actually. It's
Yeah.
silly, but that's exactly what they said. And then there's been false rumors about him claiming that he was part of the opposition party, so therefore he was a terrorist, which definitely not. Everybody stuck up for him. He didn't have any marital problems. His wife stuck up for him. The coworkers, this guy had like 18,000 flight hours, so it's not like he was some kind of risk.
What about the flight? I read something about
Yeah, the simulator data. So the
yeah,
simulator
yeah.
data as well. This is a huge misnomer. People think that he had this practice route. That's just a complete narrative as well. And I think it actually comes from Jeff Wise of the Netflix documentary. Like, I found a New York Post article where he was the person who was promoting this pilot suicide narrative and this myth. It turns out the simulator data they found that was erased on February 3rd, I think it was, he had flown on February 2nd, and it was MH150 to Jeddah, a flight he was actually scheduled to fly. It wasn't a
Okay.
suicide route. It was different, completely different route.
Okay.
Didn't come from the South China Sea or anything like that. It was just KL, Kuala Lumpur.
Well, he's just
flying to the
practicing a
destination.
flight he's about to take.
Exactly. And then they're like, oh, well, there's one like flight like
interesting.
waypoint or something like this in the South Indian Ocean or near Antarctica or something like that. And they say, oh, well, this proves his plot to do this, but it's not even the same path. Like if it was actually the exact same path, like, and they're like, oh, here's this flight path, and he practiced, it was exactly the same path. I'd be like, yeah, that's really strong evidence, but it's not. It's not even close to that.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty weak to us.
the Minister of Defense himself, this weird, sketchy guy, actually ruled that out too. He said the FBI looked at it and they found nothing suspicious. So, like, I want to see what other narratives what other things do you have that?
What's the Netflix?
I want to address everything that's out there.
Yeah, for sure. What's the Netflix documentary that is
what's it
out
even
there?
called?
It's like Flight of
It's terrible though.
MH370.
I
the
talked to Florence
disappearance.
Changi in there, and like she told me that the production guy was director was a dickhead, and she almost walked off the set of it, and they butchered her opinion to make everybody think that like her
Who
thing
is
was
this
all about
person
playing
you're
and
talking
shut
about?
down. She's one of the original investigators. So the two main groups, there's been actually several main groups that have investigated it. I think Larry Vance, apparently a guy I barely knew, but he went on Ross Coulhart's thing. He's a big promoter of the pilot suicide narrative.
The one that just came out, you're talking about the Ross
the
Coulthard
Ross Coulthard
thing.
one. I don't know if you reviewed it, but yeah, it was like a week ago.
I saw part of and that's the main that's his
So it's
most leading
his
narrative is the
yeah, the lead one. And
suicide.
then Florence Changi was the second person who did it. And her narrative
Okay.
is that the United States did something to it, potentially shot it down.
Got it.
Or
We're
whatever
involved.
they did. But yeah, now
Got
the
it.
only difference, the main difference between her theory and mine is she thinks the plane went to the northeast to Vietnam or made it to China or so in that direction.
Got it.
My
Got it.
opinion is that it did go back to the west, and it really comes down to how much evidence you trust. Like if you believe the radar information from the Malaysian government's accurate, then they went to the west. Florence Chang, you potentially say, well, it flew right over Buttersworth airport. Like there's an airbase there on the west coast of Malaysia. Like it should have picked up this plane. There's no way it didn't just fly past it, and that's why she thinks there's no way it could have gone west because they would have done something.
Got it.
For me, I say, well, you know, they let it go because they had communications with this plane and they just didn't reveal them to the public. And that's why the Malaysian Minister of Defense knew the plane wasn't hostile. And that's why they didn't do anything. So those, I think, are the main evidence in general. I'm trying to think of what other evidence. Oh, the debris. So, I mean, again, the thing about the debris, people say, well, there was a confirmed
I
serial
read
number.
about the debris that some
one
guy
flapper on
went,
it. Yeah.
right. One guy went out to, this is a story I heard. So tell me how right I am.
Yeah.
Some guy, so there is something weird about the guy that like within 30 minutes of being on a beach, he finds debris on
Yeah, I
some
don't know how he
island
found
off
the
of
first
Africa or
tip.
something, or no? Am
Yeah,
I
the
wrong?
Reunion Island, I think, is the first piece that was found. I don't know the exact order actually, but the flapper, and this is about, I think, 500 days later, so like a year and a half is like the range where all this
And
debris
this is
started
what
getting
they
found.
show in that Netflix documentary, right?
Yeah,
Part of
and
this.
Jeff Wise actually tries to vilify this guy, Blaine Gibson, who's this like expatriate. Expatriate just means you're a dude who's lived overseas
That's
basically
the
your whole
guy
life.
that found it, right, on the beach. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, and so he was like an
Okay.
adventurer that, you know, wanted to help
Got it.
out. And if people think this
Yeah.
is weird, I'll tell you this is not that weird. I've had
Totally.
people like want to talk to me like in person like about this case because they think it's that crazy.
Sure.
So, and
Of
I mean, I've
course.
talked to, you know, Jaime Mausen, who's been promoting, you know, the Nazca Mummy. So there's a lot of people that actually
Dude,
like
you were
want to
supposed
talk
to
me
go
about
on
this.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
Let's be
But-
real. That you know,
that's pretty big. Yeah.
that's pretty big, dude. You were supposed
I'm
to
kind of
go
glad
on
I
Joe
didn't because,
Rogan.
you know, some of the reactions,
Look.
and I'm imagining the people in the chat right now as well. Like, you know, they're pretty skeptical because you should be skeptical. I just want to be honest with those people. Like, this is a completely divergent narrative to what has been out there from almost every perspective. It's a lot to ask people to buy into, especially the idea that we actually have technology this advanced. And then you have competing narratives, which is one of the parts that I found interesting about the UFO community is like, even in like the believer side or the skeptic side, you have all these division as well. Where some people are like, it has to be aliens. No, and other people go, no, we've had this tech, aliens are fake, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here in the middle going, oh man, I don't need all this drama. Like it's already enough. Like we got a conspiracy going on here. And now I got to get
Good point.
orbs and maybe aliens involved. My personal opinion is there's no aliens involved in this. It's just that we can have figured this technology out. I think we've been getting better and better at it. And I think that this technology is being kept secret. And they're maybe even using the alien narratives as distraction as possible. I don't want to offend the alien believers out there. I think aliens can be real. It's a huge universe, you know. I just don't know if they are here with us. I think that it's actually weirdly now, I think it's more possible that we have some kind of future human situation going on where we're retroactively sending information from the future. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's like, hey,
Oh
I'm
my
walking through
God,
the time portal,
dude.
but I think it's like there may be weird ways where like we can actually be sending messages to the past. That's probably going to put me out there in the woo, but
No,
if
no, you're
people,
rocking so many thoughts in my brain, dude. I love this. No, for
well,
sure.
if people are interested though, check out the double slit experiment variant, which is the delayed choice quantum eraser. This one essentially proves that somehow the future is impacting the past in entanglement when you have entanglement, which if you believe in that any of this is possible and there's an extra dimension, then the idea is that behind the scenes, like if you strip away the reality, that every point in our reality is actually connected. Like it looks like, we are super far apart, but I'm just going to reach over here and no, if like
Yeah.
that worked and like that could do that, like that's
Totally.
essentially what this is kind of saying is that,
Yeah.
we don't perceive the reality in the right way here. And it does lead to some very bizarre effects being possible because the distance there is essentially time traveling if we were able to pull something like that off.
I mean, look, I got so many thoughts here, dude.
Yeah,
Great
throw 'em
job.
at
Like
me.
this is it. This is what I'm talking about.
Oh, we
Well,
didn't talk about
one,
Edward C. Lin, the leaker either, right? So should I bring that
okay.
up?
Let me pin that. But yes,
Sure.
just let me get these thoughts out because I'm gonna forget them, dude.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Remember, I'm of lower intelligence, so I got to get
Definitely
this
not.
stuff out.
I don't want people to
Um,
think that I'm super intelligent either, man. This is just a situation where like I wouldn't say I'm obsessed, but I'm super interested in it. And I just find the whole situation intriguing and just honestly like living through a movie. So go ahead, drop your thoughts
yeah,
at me.
no, I get it, man. I appreciate saying that. I totally get what you're saying. Um, Well, one, let's acknowledge first of all that there's no question that the flight of MH370, there's a lot of shit around it, and the true story is not really out there. That is a given to me. So the fact that you're looking into this, whatever, what's wrong with that? That's a legit. Again, the mistake I made at the beginning, right? That I apologize for at the beginning. I didn't give this the due effort it deserves. So regardless of how you think about these videos or whatever, the truth is the true story of MH370 is not out there, and something is being covered up and hidden, and that's intriguing, right? But secondly, like the fact that we're talking about these sort of, maybe it's a little woo, little esoteric, whatever. It could be out there. You could consider that, but let's also be realistic here and fair to that point that you were making, which is there are many things in life that are equally as what we might think of as magic or out there or whatever, right? That at one point we never accepted. It has become a part of our reality. We've slid it in. It's become part of our everyday life. I mean, just the fact of us doing this podcast is the future. Take this 2,000 years ago, they'd be like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? What is that? Video, audio, we got that. We got a lot of stuff happening here." So this idea that this technology could exist from human beings just advancing, keeping it a secret is completely plausible. And to think about like quantum entanglement, right? Where normally we would think of that as just as a place, but to add in the time element to quantum entanglement and how things could be entangled through time as well. Once you realize time and space are, no pun here, but entangled, that is interesting, right? And to put all this together with this MH370, these videos, it doesn't become so outlandish to think that that possibility is out there. What the real question is the videos that we're seeing is that thing you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? And
That's a good
that's
question.
where the real discussion should be. But just much respect to you, dude. I don't think you've probably heard this enough from people in this community, but much respect to you for looking into this, diving deep, getting a whole community of people together to be focused on one thing, to try to look into this. And what ends up happening is just like anything in life, when you go to accomplish something, you realize there's all these side benefits that came from it. So you brought a community together. You brought people that have probably become friends because they've done this investigation together. You yourself have learned and gone through a journey of becoming who you are, this out-facing public figure that was representative of these videos, but is now trying to do more in the community than just that, which I appreciate seeing of you, dude, to be honest with you, right? Just like your Jack Sarfati interview. So I think these are just things that the audience should hear and consider. And I just want to say, man, hey, regardless if the videos are real or not, I think you have brought something cool to the table. And this needs to happen more. I think actually what you did should be an example of what happens more in this community, and people should be, you know, more accepting of wanting to look into these things, because to be so dismissive of stuff is very unique, right? Like, let's be real. Why can Jeremy Corbell release a jellyfish video, but you can't investigate these videos? What the hell are we talking about here? Because if we're just going off looks, right? I said to you that the MH370 videos look fake to me at first, right? The jellyfish video equally looks like BS, even though it's kind of intriguing at first. But let's be real, at the end of the day, it totally looks like BS. So what is then required? Looking into it, investigating. So just props to you, man. I'm glad you've done this. I'm glad we've done this and we've talked about it. So yeah, just wanted to get that off. But let's jump into the
couple
leaker
quick
stuff.
comments on that. So yeah, because
please.
what I want to say is that, you know, look at it this way, I guess, is like I never asked for any of this stuff. Like I never thought I was gonna be a social media influencer or anything like that. I just gonna live a normal life. So like, so from that perspective, like I want to thank all the people out there and the people that did some investigation, the people in MH370X. Those people deserve a huge amount of credit as well, because this was like an actual communal team effort in terms of digging through this, especially at the beginning on Reddit and Twitter and 4chan.
You got a whole subreddit dedicated to this, right?
Oh yeah, well I had mine banned, and then the other ones, you know, whatever. But we won't dig too much into Reddit right now. I don't want to get anyone angry. But no, I used to thank them like in every.
They
post
love me on Reddit. What are you talking about, Ashton?
Yeah, I think that we might have similar feelings on a lot of the aspects there. But no, so. You know, I thanked a lot of those people out there. I also want to say that, like, in terms of, like you said about Jeremy Corbell and those people out there as well, I think it's kind of silly and hypocritical for people to think that, you know, these videos are bullshit if they're pushing stuff out there that's like that. Like, we've got a full story
100%.
here related to this. That like actually makes sense, even though it seems outlandish, it seems difficult. But the people in the UFO community, this is the part where, like, the whole point, the reason why I'm sticking around or whatever you want to call it, is that, like, I'm pushing the science forward and the conversation forward related to the science. And what I want this to lead to is the idea of, what does this really mean? Like, what does this mean for our civilization, our reality? And if there are other aliens out there, there's many different variants. Like, what is the real situation? What's going on this planet? You know, just to add some dark aspects, the things that I think about a lot are like, are we in some kind of prison planet scenario where there's other beings that are so omnipotent and have technology that's even more advanced than those orbs that are just controlling our every move? And then the other aspect I think of it is like, what if this technology is the end of the world? What if this is like doomsday level technology? Any civilization figures this out, two different people get mad at each other, and there goes everything. Everything's just wiped out. And you think, well, that's the same as nuclear weapons. And I'd say, no, nuclear weapons are scary. They can destroy whole cities. They can destroy, you know, whole neighborhoods. But these types of weapons destroy whole planets. So this is where I want people to think about what's really possible and what is the future of our civilization. Like, we might actually be a species that can go to Mars, that can go to other solar systems, or maybe even other galaxies with this type of technology, like realistically in our lifetimes. And so the question here then is, I'm either wrong and it's on me. I'm the guy that's been promoting. I put it all on me, you know, and I have no problem with that, or I'm right. And we need to prepare for what comes next and how we change our future. I think that, to segue into Edward C. Lin real quick, there was one night where I was sitting here in October and I was wondering, you know, I have a lot of information. I watched those videos, several dozen times. And I thought, wow, this is a U.S. military personnel who leaked these videos. They didn't care about getting caught. They would have been caught within, I thought, weeks potentially. And I started looking around on the internet thinking, maybe I can find charges. I find out that they have to be made publicly available, even in a scenario like this. It can't be like classified, the charges. They had to let the guy know he's really being arrested or whatever.
Okay. I see
so
what you're saying.
I dig around, and sure enough, yeah. So this isn't even a situation where you think, is this even information can be found? I find out it is. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So then I dig around. It takes me a while, like several weeks. And I finally find.
Put us in the timeline. What timeline is this? Like last year? When is this?
This was October. So this was October. Like the videos reemerged in August. So this was a couple months later. And I'm sitting there one night, and it just dawns on me that I might be able to actually find the leaker, or like, you know, come close. And I expected nothing. I looked at all the major.
When you say leaker, you mean Regicide Anon?
No, I think I don't think Regicide Anon was the person that leaked the videos. I think that they were somebody
that uploaded them.
Yeah, the person that uploaded them, maybe they were leaked directly to them or indirectly. Not really sure.
Wouldn't they have to be pretty important themselves for this leaker to trust Regicide Anon, or how would he?
Probably. I got to pause for just 1 sec. I'm going to have to edit this out. Sorry, 1 sec.
No worries. Do you think?
Oh, sorry. That's good. Yeah, my dog was scratching outside.
What kind of dog you got?
She's a husky, Lulu. She's kind of
Husky?
famous at this point because she's got so much attitude. It's like everybody asks me to show people, and I try to pick her up, and she goes full flip out mode. She hates being
Oh.
picked up.
Bro,
with a
yeah, my
passion.
dog. Here, Rocket, come here. Here, hang on. Let me see if I can get him up. Rocket.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try right now because she'll lose her mind. Oh, super cute.
This is Rocket, dude. He's from Spain. I brought him back from Spain. We found him. He's a rescue.
Oh,
Picked
that's
him up
awesome.
by a castle, dude. He was a little nothing, just a ball of nothing, bro.
That's awesome. I love when people rescue animals. Like I got mine
Oh,
from
dude.
a couple that just couldn't take care of them any longer, but not quite
Yeah.
like adopting one. But yeah, so but that's the best, man.
Okay, Rocket. Hay que bajar, tío. Hay que bajar. Tengo que hablar con Ashton. No, venga. Vamos, tú, Rocket. No, he doesn't want to get down. Okay, Rocket.
That's
All
a good
right, cool.
blooper. Gotta save that
Right?
one.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man. It's the real moments. We're real people.
Oh yeah,
You
I can
know,
tell for
we got
sure. This
real
is why
lives.
I'm happy that we've reconciled and what have you. And
Totally, dude.
I don't need anybody to like have to believe these videos are real that are out there. If there's people out there that don't want to believe the videos are real, doesn't matter to me. I think that's
Oh,
totally
dude, yeah,
fine.
you
I'm
gotta
asking,
let that
asking
go.
a lot. I'm asking a lot.
Yeah, you gotta let that
like,
go,
this
dude. You
is-
gotta let people just make their own decision.
Yeah.
Do your best to give your best pitch of, hey man, this is what I think. This is what I found. This is what I've looked into, and this is what I think. And let's
Exactly.
be real, you know more than anybody. So you're gonna have just some people just don't even have the time to do the sort of
Yeah.
deep dive into it that you have done, essentially.
It's a huge amount of
So-
evidence out there, and it's like
Yeah.
it's hard to put people into my shoes in terms of having looked through it versus getting it all out there. It's not kind of thing where you
Totally.
can post out one or twice. So yeah, I think
for
that what I would say this is if you are doubt it, then look at the science that I've dug into because I'm digging into real science that's literally actually suppressed. I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually suppressed. It's real science that's just suppressed out there, and it's in these various special access programs that people have been talking about. Every UFOologist says, yep, and they're real. They have real special access programs related to Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman,
Yeah.
Bigelow Aerospace,
That is
Boeing
true.
Phantom Works. So there's quite a few. And what happens is these scientists, these engineers go to those places, they sign NDAs, they they put their phone in one of those cages or whatever in the bags or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then they work on science like this. And then they come out and they're like, how do I get in my car? How do I drive a gas powered car when I just saw some floaty orbs or something? Not exactly this, but I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And that's hard because they know you can just change the world with this technology.
Sure.
Like this is
Well, that's a
straight
good
up
point.
free energy, potentially portable fusion power, crazy stuff. Maybe even just wireless energy. Like when we're talking about these orbs, that's what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
let's segue though real quick back to the Edward C. Lynn thing, and then you can ask me.
Yeah,
Does that make
for
sense?
sure. I was gonna bring it back to that if you didn't anyway. So I
Thank
know
you.
you didn't
Sweet.
finish that.
So yeah, so back in October, like you said, like you asked, I was sitting there in my room, just sitting there having a martini, probably going, wait, I think I can remember. I think I can figure out who this guy is. So I dig
Yeah.
through all these people that have been charged with espionage or willful retention of classified information or dissemination of those documents. I tried to narrow it down just a few charges. And then I found some lists on Wikipedia of like, if you were in the Marines or if you were in the Navy and you got court-martialed. And it turns out that Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lynn ended up being on the list. So I look at this guy. Lieutenant Commander is a rank that's only in the Coast Guard and the Navy. It's not in any other military. So this actually narrows it down to him being in the Navy. He was also investigated by the NCIS. So that's also the Navy, whatever crime thing. I didn't watch that
Shit.
TV show ever, and the FBI. And so I find this guy, and you only find him if you go back from like 2014 to 2016. There's nothing about him before that or after that, which makes it really hard to find information about random people you don't know their names. But once you find his name, you start digging into it. I knew really early on this is the guy, because this is now where I was like in a crime movie, and I'm going, wait, he has signals intelligence experience. He flew on spy planes.
Oh,
His
shit.
rank and was actually to give information to like the generals or whoever were monitoring the operations out there. This was actually he was for. One of the articles about him called "The Strange Case of Edward C. Lynn" like wonders why they have obfuscated everything about his charges. They censored everything out. They wouldn't say what it is. They keep him in pretrial detainment. His family makes a website to say he's not a spy. They're trying to hit him with espionage and put him in prison for life. And then they have to come out and admit that, nope, he didn't have any evidence that he was exchanging any information with anyone from China. And so there's not really a spy case at all. And you're like, wait, So why would they charge him if they didn't have any evidence that he exchanged information with anyone from China? You're like, this has to be pretty big because they forced him into a plea deal. They ruined this guy's life. The defense argues that the classified information in question is available on the internet, so that it's like leaked out there publicly to people. And he also gets caught with flight manifest that included search and rescue code names just a couple months later. And you're thinking, well, what could there be? And there's even a picture on one of the articles about him that at the top is a P-8 Poseidon spy plane. And it says the P-8 Poseidon spy plane is searching for the survivors or debris of MH370. I'm like, wait, what? On the top of his article, there's that? And you might say they just needed a picture of a spy plane, but why the caption? Why does the caption mention MH370 in here? It's so weird. And he flew on those spy planes. And the dates as well. He gets assigned to this VPU-2 squadron in February 2014. And then we have a quote. It's hard to figure out exactly when the investigation started, oddly. There's a little bit of misleading information out there, depending on which website you believe. But we have a direct quote from his lawyer saying the investigation began April 2nd, 2014, which is less than a month after the plane disappeared.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's like, wait. And remember what I said about whoever leaked
When
this
did the
potentially
plane
getting caught?
disappear exactly? It was March 14th?
8th.
March 8th, sorry.
Yeah, March 8th, 2014. But there is the date on the video saying it was received March 12th, 2014. So you can imagine if somebody leaked these, they leaked them within 4 days or in 4 days exactly. The Regicided non-description said source protected as well. Pretty unusual because the other videos they had did not say this. They usually said like email submission. So
what does that mean? Source protected. What do you mean by that?
Imagine if somebody sent you a video and you're like somebody who posts UFO videos from people. Because back in the day, especially when we didn't have just free internet, anyone can post anything anytime. People would like send people tapes and stuff like that, and then they would post those videos. So that's presumably what happened here. Someone got a USB drive, they got it emailed to them. But in this case, probably not emailed because they didn't say email submission. And some of their other videos,
well, the files would be kind of big, wouldn't they?
Not really. The file size is only like 100 megabytes. It's pretty small.
Yeah, but you can't send that through email, just normal. Like it has
probably
to
not
be...
2014. I don't really know.
Right?
That's
you
the
know
point.
what I mean?
Do you think maybe someone got handed a flash drive? Now, Edward C. Lin was also a naturalized American from Taiwan. Taiwan is our ally against China. In fact, it's pretty contentious because it's mostly Chinese people that live there. And so Edward C. Lin actually did have contacts with people in Taiwan. This was actually part of the case against him. Is that they say he exchanged some information with his buddies who were like at an embassy or something, in the military in Taiwan.
Yikes.
But that's not as bad though, because that's an ally of us, right? And this is just like, they got caught in casual conversation.
Let's be real. They all do that stuff, right? Probably.
Yeah, of course. That's why you think they're not coming after this guy for life in prison for something like that. It's got to be something bigger. And then they convince him to take this plea deal where he gets 9 years in prison. And that's a huge amount of time. If you look at other people, I did compare, and his appeal actually argues that he got way more than other people, and he did. Like most people with this kind of disseminating classified information or something, they got like a slap on the wrist, like less than a year or maybe a couple of years. There was a guy that actually got caught giving China secrets for money, caught cold-blooded, handed, whatever. He only got 2 years. It's like, wait, so this dude, he must have done something really serious.
Wow. Yeah.
And it actually makes sense with the story that's being told as well, is that this idea of espionage. Well, if this was espionage of the United States against China going, hey, don't mess with us, we're just showing you what we can do. Like, that's a powerful message, first of all. And we're preventing you from stealing these scientists. Like, that's a huge spy message for sure.
But wouldn't China have to know this is what happened? The Americans used an energy weapon.
Yes, but if you show them the technology, like they showed us, if those videos are real, I've been able to glean and learn more about science and about that I would ever known in my life, and completely change the trajectory of it, because you can actually look the science up and find out that it checks out. It's just what we would consider.
I'm saying, would the Chinese government do all this work? Like, how does China know that
so
America
they hacked
used this power?
Yeah, so they hacked the Malaysian government the next day and stole classified information about the plane and the crisis meeting minute notes. Which is weird because why are there crisis meeting minute notes that are hidden? And why is there classified information about the plane? What is that on March 9th? But when everybody,
it's almost, they would have to know where to go to grab that stuff.
Yeah, they performed a social engineering hack similar to the one that was performed on me, actually, where they made, and this case is a little different. They sent something saying plane debris found to the search people in the Ministry of Transportation, and they clicked on the link and it installed the virus and they stole everything from them. That's how it played out. You guys can Google it and see. It's pretty crazy. So it's like, why are they doing that? To me, that rules them out as who's the guilty party, because you're not doing that if you stole the plane, right?
If you're the one,
you're doing it because you're trying to figure out what happened. and they have their own
Yeah, you're trying to
satellites,
figure
but
out
their
what
satellite
happened.
system is not as advanced as ours. Our
So
super
you think
system is
they
number
figured
one.
out what happened from that
I think they figured something crazy
heist?
happened out, but they didn't know exactly what happened. And then even their satellite images, which they released 5 days later, show 3 orbs around an object in low altitude. Like you can see
Oh,
the cumulus
really?
clouds. Yeah, if we Google that, you can just check it out.
Shit.
We
Okay.
don't need to go through it right now because it's pretty clear, but it'll be a fun
Yeah.
thing for people watching to go check out. Just Google MH370 satellite pictures
Homework.
from China, and you'll see there's like triangle pattern around an object, and you could imagine that that's China going, well, this is what we've got, this is what we saw, we know you did something, right? They don't know exactly what somebody did potentially, but they know they did something. And this is the part
Interesting.
where, depending on your narrative, either they know we hijacked the plane and they don't know exactly, or this is like them going, okay, you win, whatever you did, USA. And they're not going to like, they're probably sending it a back channel as well, but it's a propaganda effort. They're throwing it out into the world. The world goes, oh, this is debris in the South China Sea. And they go search and there's nothing there. And you look at the pictures again, you're like, that doesn't even look like something floating in the water. It looks like something in the sky. And so this is where like this is actually my own personal investigation. Only I've pretty much, I think, figured this out in MH370X people and team. But this is part two where it's like, why is that even a thing if these videos are not real? How is that even? Because that was 5 days after the plane went missing. There's all these weird satellite pictures where they found nothing, and it seems like it was spycraft, like one country to another. And this makes you wonder about what are the huge implications of this. Like, are all countries hiding this? Why didn't China just come out and say, hey, we saw your crazy orbs? To me, that's because it was US technology. They go, oh, we saw the US use super advanced technology in the plane. The world goes, no, you didn't. And the United States media and stuff says China is spreading disinformation, saying that the plane was zapped by some UFOs. Nobody's going to believe it. Just like they're not even believing me now, right? So that's the part where, I think that there's so many weird details like that I never would have expected. And the witnesses as well that all see this fire event, 19 different people, including one when it starts on fire and one right at basically at the location we think the plane's getting phased away. And it's like, okay, how do you ignore all the witnesses too? This is where these other narratives out there, like it was a suicide or even the shoot down narrative. It's like, well, I've got 19 witnesses who saw the plane, and that doesn't even count the people on the island that were in that.
You're
weird island
saying
over there.
from the ground saw the plane.
Yeah, or heard
Right.
things. So there's 9 people on the coast.
I
that
heard
the
about
plane.
a woman on a boat, maybe.
Yeah, Catherine T. So she sees the plane glowing orange, and she's over the Nicobar Islands, like the same spot we see in the coordinates within
But wasn't it from like a long distance?
100 miles. So when you see a plane, like we're talking we don't know the exact time of her sighting. It's estimated. What she told me when I spoke to her personally was 1840 UTC, which is the same time the satellite's looking down at that location. And she told me directly she felt pressured by the other experts to change the time of her story to better fit their various narratives, because she sees the plane. This is a huge thing, but she sees a glowing orange plane with no navigation lights. And I tried to figure out why the plane is glowing orange. It's because of the batteries. It's actually not just because of the batteries in the fire, but the fire suppression devices have bromine in them, which is a halogen gas.
So she's saying she saw an actual outline of a plane and it's on fire.
Yeah, and she's had the recreation shown on her blogs, old blog posts, her best.
How long?
She looked
Do
for
you
what it
remember how
looked
long
like.
a distance that was?
Now, so that's this thing where it came up. I don't know, one of the podcasts I went on, and it's kind of irrelevant because it's like she saw it. But what I'll say is they did do a recreation of her flight in terms of her sighting, because she said it was flying low, and they said it was somewhere between 2,000 and 10,000 feet. So it's pretty big margin of error. And there's this kind of misinformation about like
was
looking
she on a
into
flight and saw it like out a window, or she was?
No,
on
she was on a boat. She was on a boat.
Okay, she's the one on the boat. Okay, yeah.
So the first person, I think people, the debunk is supposedly that he was 300 nautical miles away, and you can't see a plane that far away, but I think you definitely can. And if you disagree, then tell me why from the cross of Lake Michigan, people can take pictures of Chicago where supposedly the curvature said that it shouldn't be possible because it's over 60 miles away, because there's absolute proof of that on the internet. So I think this idea that like, no, he can't see that far is like a pretty big reach, especially when we're like,
far, man.
just on
I
the,
lived in
this is an
southern
airplane
Spain
in the sky, right? This is not just a plane like, on the ground. This is very high.
I
in the
lived
sky.
in southern Spain, and we would go to the beach, and you could see across the Mediterranean. You could see Africa. You could see Morocco, parts of Morocco on a clear day, very far.
And that's just stuff
yeah,
that's
I
on
live
the
in
water,
Texas,
right?
man.
Not on the sky.
We know here in Texas you can see stuff far away. So okay, I'm just trying to.
No, I want to make sure I address
always,
like
I always imagine things in my head, so I have to imagine a woman on a boat looking across, like how far away is it? Just helps
So
me picture things.
now her thing is not distance. Mike McKay, he's the one on the oil rig that's 300 miles away.
That's the other guy I heard
Now,
about.
Catherine
Okay.
T, she's on a boat and she definitely sees the plane. Like she's in the flight path of the plane that everybody agrees on.
Okay.
The people that believe the other various narratives, I'll say the South Indian Ocean narrative, they have no explanation. I think they try to say that like she just didn't see the plane turn to the South Indian Ocean, or she saw it close enough that it could have been turning to the South Indian Ocean. But why is it flying so low and landing? She says that she sees it visibly descending and flying low in her videos. Or
Does
in
no
her,
one else see the
side.
plane on fire on the boat with her?
So that's kind of a good question. So this is only like 2 or 3 people in the boat, her husband, and potentially 1 crew member. And I think I'm just going to say this. I think I haven't really mentioned it much, but I want to bring it up because I don't think it's going to harm anybody. But the crew member she was with apparently didn't want to talk to anybody afterwards, and she wanted to keep that. She told me directly that she wanted to make sure that she told me that was the case, but not to like potentially spread it. Although I guess I am kind of spreading it now, but it's more so that doesn't want to make sure anybody or anyone in his family got in trouble. I don't know why that is. Seems a little bit suspicious, but when I talked to her, it didn't necessarily seem nefarious. Just more like somebody who didn't want to talk to the media at all, which I do find kind of odd, given the situation here. Initially, I thought, well, she saw the plane disappear and she didn't want to tell anybody because she thought everyone would think she's crazy. Because that's probably what people would think if you say, "Yeah, I saw this low-flying orange plane and then it disappeared." They're gonna be like, "Yeah, you were seeing some stuff, right?" No one's gonna believe that.
Sure.
So, but no, her story is, and you take it or leave it how you will. This is on her blog. It's not like it's new information, but she did tell me personally. I verified all this information with her firsthand. Was that she went inside after she saw the plane descending and turning, and so she sees it kind of far away. Like it's pretty small. Like you're seeing like a Matchbox car. You take that Matchbox car and you look at it. So you're not seeing this huge thing coming right being really natural. You're seeing it in the sky. And she went inside to put the tea on. And because she was upset, she had been in a fight with her husband. And so she goes inside to put the kettle on, I guess is what the term they use. And then she comes back out. I don't know exactly how long later, but not much later, presumably. Or even if it was later, doesn't matter. When she comes back out, there's no plane there anymore. And she remembers seeing a weird glowing orange halo-like effect is the term she used. Take it as you will in terms of witness sighting. But she said it was big enough that like it looked like an oil rig in the distance. So it looked pretty large. And that's so you can kind of take it or leave it however you want. It is interesting that the direction of her sighting matches the direction of the plane turning like south into the east. Got it. But I feel again, my difficult thing there is like she didn't see any orbs. I asked her, she didn't see anything like that crazy, at least she claims. So, you got
that's interesting. She wouldn't have seen the orbs.
Yeah, we don't know if she would have seen the orbs. It's like a plasma field, but I don't know if they're invisible.
Maybe from that distance. Yeah, I mean,
we're looking at an infrared camera, so you don't really know for sure. I would imagine you're going to notice a plane and she said it had smoke coming out of the back of it, which is also consistent with the videos.
Maybe that's all you're going to pay attention to. You see a plane, smoke, fire, you're just like, you're not paying attention to the rest of it, just to be fair to her.
I like to be, and honestly, in most cases, like I know that witnesses remember things poorly, but usually they don't just make up whole events. So you might argue some aspects of
I agree.
sighting are not necessarily perfectly accurate. I think that's the case too. And early on, we were trying to interpret like maybe the orbs were causing the orange glow. That didn't really make any sense because these orbs catch up to the plane within a second. So that
would be weird for her to just make up some random.
Yeah, especially where they proved with her GPS that she was like actually there. So she saw something and it had to be the plane. The question is, how does everybody else just dismiss it? And the problem I think that for them is that the reason why they have to dismiss it and not just accept her sighting into their beliefs is that the plane's dark and they're trying to argue that the SATCOM had come back online and that that's how we got additional pings. Where I'm going, no, that was offline. Those additional pings are fabricated. The government just ran 10 extra rows on the Excel spreadsheet. They put in fake numbers in there and they can send it any direction they want. And they sent it to the South Indian Ocean. And that's kind of crazy to believe that we would pull something like that off. But if those videos are real and you can't let the world know about those videos, then it makes sense why you would do that.
Sure.
I mean, that doesn't seem like a stretch to me in that case, and convince the world that that those are real and that should be the prevailing narrative on the mainstream media. I think that they can pull that off as well. So
if what's in those videos is real, anything is possible.
No, that's the great
If I'm
part.
being
That's the fun part.
it's just like
You're right.
anything would be possible, and of course, anything to cover that up would be possible. Probably things we wouldn't even think of. So outlandish, you'd be like, no way. Yes, they
So
did
these
that.
other narratives that are out there, yeah, like they're, they don't like that she has the witness saying that the smoke as well. They hate because there's a Mayday call that was only reported in China Times that claimed that it was from MH370, and that the plane was attempting an emergency landing and descending, and that was supposedly at 2:43 a.m. Which if you convert that to UTC, which was a 6-hour difference, or am I saying that right? Maybe 8-hour difference, 8 hours. Then in that situation, it's 1843 UTC. And before I'd even known about that, I was targeting this time being somewhere around 1840. I think plus or minus 5 minutes is pretty good for a 10-year-old cold case to figure out the exact time the plane
100%.
disappeared based on
I mean, that's
videos.
definitely interesting, dude. When you're doing an investigation, coincidences, that's where
And
you start.
Catherine T said that was the time
Start
as
with
well
the
that she saw her sighting. So it's like you're really starting to narrow this down at this point. But again, like I said before, to be honest, it's hard to reconcile with those islanders. The
Sure.
time they see that plane like 6 hours later. So it's like, how
Sure.
did the plane just get cloaked and go over there, or did they, if you believe in
It
something,
would
if you don't
be
believe in teleportation,
interesting.
I don't know.
It would be interesting that that woman on that boat saw the plane basically in the moment right before it got zapped. That's
Yeah, I think
kind
she
of,
might have. It's hard to
I
say.
mean, but that I'm just saying
That's crazy.
that's
though.
also kind of a coincidence the other way. Like, that seems odd.
I
That
think it's
seems
more
like a
odd. There's
red
not more
flag.
people. I thought that
Well,
anywhere in the
that's
ocean, if
true.
there's a plane like that, I
That's
would
true.
thought there's going to be like 5 or 10 witnesses. But it was 2 a.m. and it's
Yeah.
pitch black.
I mean,
We checked, the moon
that's
was
fair.
down, the sun was down. She said it was pitch black as well, and she could only
Yeah,
make
it's
out the
middle of the
smoke
night.
potentially because
Sure.
you guys should have the stars give off a decent amount of light if you're not a lot of light pollution. So,
Well, was she out in the ocean?
yeah, so she's out in the ocean on the boat. So she's on this 3-person
I mean,
boat with her
dude,
husband. So it's like,
the
and
light is
she's
bright out there.
oh
It's
yeah, because
bright.
there's
You
no light
can
pollution.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a glowing orange plane, it's pretty odd,
I mean, what I
you
mean
probably wonder
also
what
by
you're
that,
looking at.
to be fair to her story, you're out that late. You can see very far. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
actually see pretty damn far. So for her to see a plane at that distance isn't that far fetched.
Also,
You
for the
know.
people that think that it had just rained as well. So I actually lived in Singapore, and one of the things about it is there's usually a lot of haze.
Oh, it's super clear
So,
then.
yeah, once
Super
it
clear.
rains, it's crazy. Like all of a sudden,
It's
everything's
crazy
clear.
clear.
It's awesome.
That's how Texas is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing
So
here.
people that have been in environments like that, they know like how it makes the haze go away. So it was actually perfect
100%.
sightings that night. So that's the part too where it's like, man, how these people didn't all make this up? Like these people saw something that's out there. U.S. government knows more.
The
for
question
sure.
is it the MH370 plane and what happened? But do I? Yeah, exactly. And you talk to them, right? So you think they're pretty credible.
Oh, Catherine T is 100%
people,
credible.
right? Like, this person
I
isn't just
tested her
making
too,
the
where
shit up.
like I had her compare what she thought, like the way she reacted too. Like I don't even think she wants to believe the videos are real. It's not like she got invested in the case or anything like that.
Sure.
She's just an honest lady that saw this and she documented it
Obviously.
well. And for her, she just wants the families to get some closure for sure.
Sure.
I asked her about, hey, does this plane match the thermal one? And she goes, well, it's not green. And I laughed because I'm like, she doesn't even realize it's a thermal video. And she's like, it was orange. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I was like, but does the shape match though?
That's cool.
And
yeah.
she's like, yeah, the shape is
That's
a
funny.
perfect match. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, wow. Because that's how, like, she's not making something up. If she's like
Yeah.
following the case and messing with me or something, or trying to be invested or has some ulterior motives, she would not have made
I mean,
a
what
statement.
would be the ulterior motive, right? Like, what's she
10
getting
years
out
later?
of this?
Yeah,
Nothing.
I mean,
Exactly. 10 years later, what
a
are you getting
long
out of
con.
this?
Yeah. So,
I mean,
no, I
that's
think
a
she was
long
credible.
con for sure.
I'll make a little bit of fun of you as well, even though I think it's perfectly.
Go
I believe
for it, please.
Anybody who thinks that I made the videos or whatever, it's not. I don't put it down on you guys because honestly, I'm asking people to believe in teleportation here. So
Yeah.
whatever people's crazy beliefs are out
No,
there,
but that's a good
if
point.
you want to believe aliens took the plane,
good
man.
point,
If you want to think that I'm somehow the guy that made the
Yeah.
videos, then
No.
it's not that much more far fetched than what I'm trying to tell you here anyway.
No, but that's a good
But no,
point.
I didn't. I don't have the skills. I'm not a VFX artist
Yeah.
secretly or anything like that. I'm not secretly on the corridor crew. That would be the best reveal. If I came out and it was a long con, Ashton Forbes was actually on the corridor crew. We did the super long
He
con.
made a video. This is the
super
greatest
double
video I've
reverse
ever
stakeout.
made. Yeah.
and it was 7 months long. We just wanted to see how many people would fall
Dog.
for it. Like that would
Holy
be the
shit.
most epic. Honestly,
Dude,
Corridor Crew, hit me up.
Ashton Brasco over
If they were to
here.
pay me, maybe and join the Corridor Crew, we just pull it off. Maybe I'll lie
Bro.
about it for the rest of my life. That would be a good one though.
Dog, that is the funniest thing ever. That would be just the most hilarious thing. You Donnie Brasco, this entire
Just the hold
community
for months and months
for
and
a year,
months.
for just decade, for just let's just say for 10 years. You've been with them the whole time, hidden in the background,
Just hidden.
working.
I had
Just
that
hidden.
account. Actually,
The
so
entire
one of
time.
the Higher Side podcast found out that my Twitter account had been turned on in 2014, which is true. I set one up way back then, but I didn't use it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And you can still see some of my old posts from like the months before these videos happened. So
Sure.
I didn't go back and delete anything. So people know that I was like a real person that all of a sudden just ran across this. But that was kind of a weird coincidence when he laid down. He's like, "Oh, but your account was made in like July of 2014." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like from a conspiratorial mindset, that actually
really?
does seem like kind of sketchy. I'd never even realized it. I was like, "Oh, okay," but no.
And you just shared memes of MH370.
MH370 memes all the
I'm just
time,
saying.
and weird drone videos like that. I was just like a drone aficionado and just had a bunch of drones. No, but that's if that was out there, I would believe that I made them. I'd be like,
gosh, no.
But no, let's talk real quick about the UFO
funny.
community because I want to know some of your opinions.
Yeah, man.
'cause I think you're kind of relatively new, right? What's your story in terms of getting involved in the UFO community and how long have you been doing it?
Oh yeah, I'm new for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of got into
You got
it
that poster in
really,
the background though.
recently.
You got the I want
Yo,
to
well,
believe.
I love
poster.
X-Files, man.
Yeah,
I've been a
okay.
fan of sci-fi and sort of just contextually aliens, UFO, just from a never diving deep, just like, oh yeah, that's cool. I love stuff like that. This is interesting. Oh, UFO video. Okay, cool. Never diving deep, not reading books, not maybe watch a History Channel show here or there. I think like a lot of people just involved like that. But any sort of story, you'd be like, dude, that guy's fucking nuts. That sounds crazy what that guy's talking about. But then I interviewed James Fox about Moment of Contact on my other podcast, Lone Star Plate, and I was like, this is pretty interesting.
There's something
I don't
going on
know.
here.
I just thought this was great production. And I remember seeing the phenomenon, so that got me interested too. I had gone to Area 51 and went out to the gate and had fun. And I thought, oh, this is kind of silly with it a little bit. Interviewed a researcher before that too, UFO Jane.
Is this the
woman
part
who
where it
used to
was
be a
like
part-
the raid on Area 51 time? Is that what you're talking about? Where people talking
It
about
was after that, I think.
Oh, okay.
It was after that, like the next year, I think,
Okay,
or
got it.
something like that. Yeah. And I just kind of, I'd seen some Basement Office video, nothing crazy, but yeah, man, that Moment of Contact just really like, you know what? And we, same production team that runs Lone Star Plate that, we all run together. I was like, dude, I want to do a UFO one. I like, I'm in. Like, I want to do, and to be honest, I want to cover the strange and mysterious period. That's why it's called Vetted, not like UFO Town or something. It's like I want to cover more than just
UFO Town.
UFOs. Yeah, UFO Town.
It's my new show, guys.
That's my new tour coming up in the fall. Guys, buy tickets already. UFO Town with Patrick. Yeah. So it was like, just wanted to cover more strange and mysterious stuff with Vetted, right? And we started this channel, and UFOs have just been, where we're getting ready to launch Vetted. David Grush comes out and testifies. I was like, what the fuck's going on? This is crazy. I wasn't part of the plan.
So what are your beliefs?
Kind of sent me into it.
You think there's aliens are out there? You believe David Grush?
I mean, I think he provided something that I think needs to be looked into. So he said, hey, I've got 40 witnesses. Here's there's things at these places. So here's date, time, whatever. Okay. Until somebody says, hey, we looked into that. It's all bullshit. I'm in. You know what I'm saying? They testified before Congress. All right. That sounds pretty credible to me. I think a lot of people have seen things. What are those things? I don't know. I'm not convinced any which way yet, one way or the other. Again, I've always said I don't want to rob myself of the moment of finding out we're not alone. I want that to be a real moment that I know for sure, and it changes my reality. I don't want to just, I think that's, so I believe it, if that makes sense. I don't want to cross the finish line, before I get there and start celebrating We all know how that goes. So anyway,
are you
that's
popping
kind of
like
my
the
thoughts.
champagne bottle if the aliens are real? What's your celebration?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I am either way because no matter what, we're fucked, in my opinion. Even if they're, let's say they're benevolent, they hey, yes, we want to help you humans. Somehow there will be some side effect that ruins us. I don't know what it would be, a disease, like we don't blend with their technology well. Something happens. It would not even be our fault. Could be like the best Curb Your Enthusiasm episode you ever seen. It just goes horribly wrong. So I would celebrate either way.
Funny.
You know what I mean? Why not?
Yeah, no, I think that
Wouldn't you?
and not to throw water on your party, but what I would say is that I don't think it's going to happen like that. I used to think that that would be how it's going to play out, right? Everyone's going
Sure.
to celebrate.
No,
I
you
was
might
just
be
watching
right.
a TV show where at the
Yeah.
end, like they find out that aliens are real and everybody's cheering and throwing parties, and I'm thinking like
Yeah.
the way it's really going to play out is like it's going to come out and it's just going to be like, okay, now what am I eating for breakfast tomorrow? Like, and I don't think it's like they're going to come
mean, I agree
down
with that.
in a mass though, right? I think that, and
Yeah.
maybe it's already happened. That's the weird part. I think that it's more of a the way it really plays out is like over a long period of time where we slowly get inundated with the idea of it being acceptable. I think even Hollywood, maybe they are getting information from the inside, and it's like a way to
Sure.
get people comfortable with some of these ideas, especially the science stuff. Always seemed like
Makes sense.
really close. So
If you're going to disclose, that kind of makes sense. But I agree with you. The majority of people would just move on, and so would I. I'd pop that champagne, drink, and then get back to work. Like, people always say? Oh, Patrick, what are you going to do if
yeah,
what kind of what are you going to do if they prove aliens are real? What do you mean? Keep working, keep making
same
videos.
thing.
There'd be more videos to make than ever.
That's what I would
we
say
have,
to the people.
you
I
know,
mean, the
right?
situation would blow up probably. I think you would get like a lot more exposure all of a sudden, right? People are going to go look and be like,
Course.
I want to see what these people are talking about, what this
Yeah.
means, and that's the part
Absolutely.
where this is what I would say too to like the people like the Jeremy Corbells. I even had like a little back and forth with James Fox. What I say to James Fox is I think he's a good guy. I think everybody's a good guy. They're all just trying to do their own thing. And making money, there's nothing wrong with making money in this world, especially even if it's off a topic like this. I think that what people are trying to do is push the conversation forward as well.
Sure.
Like, what does it actually mean for the community and what have you out there? So this is part two where if this ends up being real, if these videos are real, some people would say that's full disclosure because like that's either aliens or we've got crazy advanced technology
Something.
that's going to change
Yeah.
everything, right? It's good
Yeah.
enough at that point. We're popping the champagne, so to speak. So that's the part where it's like I don't think people should ever worry about like their job security because if any of this stuff ends up being real, then I think it's just going to increase the eyeballs of the whole topic
I agree.
in general. And there's a question of like, oh, is this future humans? Where did the aliens come from? Deep space, or do they come from our oceans or the underground? Hollow Earth? Like, I don't know. At this point, I'm keeping my mind open because my personal opinion is, and if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd probably say the exact opposite of what I'm about to say, but my personal opinion is there's something going on in terms of aliens. I don't know where it's at or what the nature of it is that we figured this technology out because we saw this and then we've been reverse engineering it for potentially decades. And that we've got this technology hidden that I would say is like 100 years more advanced than we are right now. I used to say like 1,000, but I think it's like 100. And the scary part is what is the next like 900 years after that look like?
After
This
that,
is just
yeah.
the beginning too.
Bro,
Now, this could get
absolutely.
really wild. We could be talking Star Trek stuff. So that's just a little
Absolutely.
fun that I wanted to make sure I told you in the audience.
No, I love talking about that stuff, man. That's I mean, look, yeah, there's definitely something going on. We don't know everything, right? We clearly don't know the limits of everything. But even more so, like, look, let's be real. With every answer comes 1,000 more questions,
Oh, yeah.
right? So you never, even if we find out, oh, we're not alone, dude. Now there's way more questions than we have now because we got new data, which leads to more investigate, more. You know what I mean? It would just blow this open more than we have. We have nothing to investigate. There's
That's the
no
sad
crap
part,
to go
right?
see. There's no like what the fuck are we looking into? Like what?
Yeah.
All it is watching people tell stories and interviews, and that's what you cover, right?
That's why I like what I've been
That's
doing.
it.
Like, so the situation there is that there's people say I was distracting the UFO community. We didn't do anything for the last 6-9 months. It was one of the
Dude,
most
I
exciting things to
agree.
happen in the last 6 to 9
I
months.
agree. I
It's
mean,
not like this
totally.
huge outflow of like great data and stuff like that. Like it's mostly like you
You're,
just
you're
said,
pulling
people
people
telling
away from the
stories,
real investigation. What
talking my story and selling my
investigation?
books and what have you. It's like, and again, I don't mind people making money, but it's like there's nothing
Yeah,
major going on out there. So we need
yeah,
more
no, I
stuff
agree.
like that in this community, I would say.
I
And the
agree.
other aspect too is to the skeptics. They may have other questions that we didn't address here, like, oh,
Sure.
someone said these frames match or plane was going too fast,
Oh,
all those things.
dude. Yeah.
Those honestly, I looked at those and most of them are very easily refutable. They don't use very basic logic and reason in some of them, not to be
Yeah.
offensive, but the ones that are the biggest ones we kind of already addressed. And
Sure.
so what I would say is I'm not, if you don't want to believe the videos are real, totally fine, no problem whatsoever. But the weird part is
I
when we
feel
look
so.
into some of those details, like why is the satellite not moving that fast? This is where we just uncover more stuff. Where then we find out about the Sibber system and that the system is mapping the whole world with like telescopes better than Hubble Space Telescopes, mapping the entire planet and
That's
low Earth
crazy.
orbit ones too. And I'm like, okay, well, if these videos are fake, then why the people's like skepticism ends up making them even more authentic? Where you learn about like, no, we actually have this kind of surveillance capability, like no doubt. And yeah,
I
so
mean, no
just
matter what you've learned from this, right? No matter what, you have taken benefits from this, right?
yeah, for me, like, monetarily, I haven't made like almost any money from
Well, I
this
don't mean
for the
like
most part.
that.
But yes, from the spiritual enrichment standpoint and education
Yeah.
standpoint, you could go as far as to say this changed almost every aspect of my life, in the
Cool.
positive direction.
Sure.
I have no regrets about anything that I've been doing, and I would do it all again. And I want to keep pushing it and pushing it as far as I can push it because finding about the science and stuff today where it's like it's finally vaguely it's like a cloud where it's starting to get more and more clear, like fog where it starts to lift up a little bit, where I'm
Yeah.
actually starting to understand the science in a way where I can explain it potentially on podcasts, where before I'd be like, here's the names, I know the terminologies, but I don't intuitively understand them. And that's what I would like want to give to the community is like there is science that you don't have to be a PhD or whatever to understand. Like you can wrap your brain around it. It's not as complex as I thought. The concepts are things that people can understand, like warp drive and wormholes and stuff like that. It's not that weird with respect to what we've kind of been told in the past, and that we should have more investigations, like you were just mentioning. Like we should have more people actually digging into the hard evidence. Now, we don't have a lot of great videos out there to do that with that have like a full story, but every
Sure.
time we do, we should demand higher standards on both sides. And I think that if you get to that part, then you can get to a part where we can agree what's real and what's not. And if we find stuff that's real, which I think is already out there, it gives us that disclosure that people want.
Yeah, man. No, well said, dude. Look, let's go out on Joe Rogan real quick because I
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
just get the rest of that. So look, you originally
People
supposed
love
to
this
go
story. Go ahead.
on. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good story, I guess. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, it is. It's a good. Well, he's a powerful player in the
Number one
community.
podcaster.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a big deal that you were going to go on the show. And look, let's be fair to you too. There was some controversy that, like, oh, Ashton didn't. And to be fair to me, I actually never bought that. Like, I believed you were going to go on the show. I believed
Yeah.
that it happened, that whole story, because I know people are like, oh, he's lying. I was like, dude, why would he?
They thought I faked the image and stuff.
Well,
I'm like,
yeah,
this is
I
a
was
pretty
like,
big
why
thing
would you do
pretty
that?
easily verifiable thing to fake, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, that's that doesn't make any sense. It totally makes sense that Joe would want to have Ashton on the show. Like, it totally makes sense.
I was
And he
surprised it took
wanted
this
it, right?
long, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just tell us the story. Like, what happened? You were going to go on the show.
We were talking about the UFO thing.
Oh,
You had sent me a video of a UFO thing that I sent to Jeremy Corbell, and he says it's bullshit.
which one?
The one where the plane gets circled by the drones.
Oh, okay. So, like, I know that video went around, but I was listening to that autistic man talking about the ins and outs of how they looked at it, and I don't think.
See that thing,
yeah.
that boom is actually that's
From a video game?
That's from a video game.
No, it's not. It doesn't match up.
It
That's what
does, but it does match up. It does match up, except for some parts of it where it looks like it's partially altered. But obviously, if you're going, like, there's a video that breaks it down how it matches up. Not only does it match up, the edges like match up precisely at certain points of it. It looks like an altered version of that image that's like a stock footage of some kind of explosion. And you're
Right.
doing it through filters and you're adjusting the way the image looks. But a visual effects guy went over it. And he explained multiple reasons why he thinks it's fake.
Well, that's a good
Someone
point.
who's an actual expert.
But you should know that a visual effects guy, expert, also went over if CNN discolored your face, and he said they didn't.
Come on.
You think
Did
I'm
they really?
We did
But
this on
it was a
Jimmy.
CNN hired guy.
Who the?
Right?
That's here's the point.
Yeah.
Like, you can't trust that now.
Well, at first I thought
Right.
that I had been trying to get his attention for months because he was one of the 3 people I wanted to talk to, which was also Tucker Carlson and Bill Maher, because I wanted like different balanced political views
Bill
to look
Maher,
at it.
nice. Okay, yeah.
Neither of
I
those are
love
going.
Bill
I think
Maher,
I could hold my own on Bill Maher, although I used to love that show. I haven't watched as much anymore, but
Sure.
I was
I'll
a big
watch
fan of him in general, and I would be happy to go on
Yeah.
the show at some point. It'd be just a lot of fun. But and so Joe Rogan was the 3rd one. So when I woke up one morning, I would say a month and a half ago or so, you know, I was just in the bathroom checking my DMs, and then you see Joe Rogan's name, and you're like, "Whoa!" Like I thought it was fake
Totally.
at first. I
Yeah.
click on the name, and it goes back to his account. It means you don't fake 12 million followers. So
Yeah.
I saw that, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And you know, he's like, "Oh, I just
Wow.
want to talk about the MH370 videos." Or the plane videos, I think he might have said. And I was like,
Yeah.
sure, Joe. Like, here's all my personal information, which I
Yeah.
think I'm like, make sure you blur that out when you guys show them the proof. This is why I didn't want to show proof. I got like personal information, these DMs,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not like I was like sending him love letters, but I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'd love to talk to you. You know, Joe, I mean, if you're like, I think if you're similar age.
Here's a
to me,
hair
like-
doll I made, Joe, of you.
Yeah.
Just saying, big fan. Give me a shout.
Yeah, no, but I, you know, he is my number 1 podcaster. I
Yeah.
like you, people interested in UFOs. He's done some of the
Sure.
biggest UFO like
Oh,
interviews
dude.
out there, right? And you
Without
can
a
really
doubt.
glean like
course.
people's intentions from some of those videos because he's such a genuine guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
of course I'm like, yo, I'll go on. Although I got scared, man, because I've seen the backlash and the debunks as well, and I thought, well, he could like, you know, end me if it goes to this, and he just takes a hardline stance on the debunk stuff and gets the corridor crew to make another video, or I don't know. So he could have done anything.
They
frankly.
show up. He brings them into the podcast.
At this point, like, yeah, and
bring
I don't
them.
want like the whole world to hate me, right? Like that's not
Yeah,
exactly what I want
totally.
here. I think that you got to wake people up slowly. You don't just jolt them awake in general.
Yeah.
You have to like get people up. So, but I was still prepared to do it because you never turned down Joe Rogan. So I was actually thinking in my mind, I'm just going to make this like the end. You know, this makes a good, it made a good sense to
Boom.
make it the end anyway. I was just thinking about it because it was the 10-year anniversary was coming up. It would have been a couple weeks later, but still could have, you know, made it work or whatever. And then the next day, I get another DM back from it. And we had actually, like, I'd gone back and forth to the booking agent about setting up the flight. I knew the date. I mentioned it was the same date that Kurt Metzger went on a few days ago. And then the next day, he sends me back another DM saying, I don't feel comfortable with this. I think this has been debunked or hoaxed. And I don't remember his exact wording, but you guys get the picture. And so then I sent back like and then he sends me another video of the Danny Jones interview. And so he obviously done a little bit of research, and he finds that, and like that one says like so and so debunked, like in the title of it, which
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can go ahead and watch it. I'm not ashamed of it. So you tell me if you think I was debunked in that video. I don't feel like I was. So, you know, but he, you know, believed that, whatever. And I wasn't like, I was upset. I was just like, no problem, man. Like, I gave his refutations. I said, here's the counter debunks to those things. I told him the story behind going on that podcast and, you know, why it wasn't really unfair to me, I thought. And then that was it. I never DM'd him after that because I'm not trying to harass Joe Rogan or anything like that. And he didn't respond after that. So, you know, presumably he thought I didn't know what he thought. And then I saw the Kurt Metzger thing a couple days ago, you know, where he said he thought they were debunked. He sent them to Jeremy Corbell. It seemed like Kurt Metzger potentially sent him the videos, actually, which was interesting. I didn't realize that he had never seen anything about it from Twitter, even though he'd been pinged hundreds of times. But I believe it. I don't think he might even use his Twitter. You know, he probably doesn't even manage his own Twitter.
Sure.
But yeah, he had been pinged literally hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, like many times people were pinging him. But yeah, I don't think he ever saw it. So, you know, whatever. But he probably presumably DMs people. And, you know, he said that he thought they were fake. I thought it was just a little bit offensive, the Jeremy Corbell thing. Because like you said, the dude's putting out, which ones did he do? He did the one that's been debunked as Boca. He's been the one that was debunked as Flares. And people don't, to his credit, don't have an explanation for jellyfish UFO. But you don't really need one when you're trying to promote a jellyfish UFO that's just floating around at normal speed.
Sure.
Like I don't necessarily think it's a balloon, but it's not really doing anything anomalous in
Well,
that video.
I mean, my
So, I
point
don't
was
know.
just kind of like, dude, you're presenting stuff that's kind of hard to believe. Like, just, you know,
Oh, yeah.
let people decide for themselves. But you're gonna, you know, trash on this guy over here who's doing the same thing. I don't.
And a lot of people
understand,
do
like-
that to Jeremy Corbell, but I'm not one of those people, and I would never want to be. Like, if the situation was
Yeah.
reversed, I wouldn't be telling Joe Rogan, "Don't look at that jellyfish UFO. It's fake."
Yeah.
right? Like I wouldn't. I
So-
wouldn't not
so-
bother. I'd be like, "Oh, let him on. Let him tell the story. You know, maybe it'll be."
So that's what
compelling."
happened, right? In the show, like he Joe says, what does he say? I emailed
Yeah,
Jeremy
he
about it
emailed
or
Jeremy,
no?
and Jeremy said it was bullshit, and he thought it was. And later on, he says he thinks it was bullshit, and then he says, that no, it's from a video game. And Kurt Metzger pushes back. Credit to Kurt Metzger because
That's true.
there's people who would have just gone along with it just from the peer pressure alone, and he
Yeah.
pushes back. And it's not like he's not in MH370X. Like if you have one of my followers MH370X go on there, they're gonna have every debug ready to counter. I guarantee you,
Yeah.
because I mean it's true that it's so compelling. And in this case, though, he mentions that no, it's not a perfect match, and Joe's like, "It's close enough." I'm paraphrasing, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
It's got to be the thing. And Kurt Metzger goes, yeah, he says something about the experts. The experts said that it matches, right? These guys are VFX experts or whatever. They're not MH370 experts, and they're not investigation experts. I'll tell you that much.
We're talking about the part in the second video,
Yeah, the
right?
drone
The drone
video.
video where
I guess I didn't address this, but
happens.
supposedly they claim that it's a Pyromania VFX, which is an explosion VFX, and that somebody pulled out like only 3 of the frames from it, and they reoriented it, and they changed the middle entirely by shading it to all black, which already is too much because this effect was used in Starship Troopers, the movie in the 90s. It was
Okay.
recently used in Attack on Titan commercial or something that somebody posted on my Twitter that I watched, where you can just see the little
wow.
explosion. And it was what was the third place it's been used? And in the Killing Time video game from the 90s as well. And in none of those locations did they modify it, or I mean, they didn't even change it at all. Like you can just see it, and then once you see it everywhere wherever it gets used. And that's
Got
how VFX assets work. They just the whole point is you don't have to use any time, right? You can just take an existing asset,
Sure.
throw it in your thing. People aren't
That's
going to
what they're
recognize
saying,
it.
right? In that video, a VFX asset was used, and they're
But it was
pinpointing
changed all around. That's the difference. If it was
Yeah.
just like that exact thing, even if it was just
It
that
does
exact thing
look
in
like
color,
it, though,
the
in a
one
weird
ring and the
way. But
one frame does.
I
But
get
yeah,
your point about. I understand your point. Like the whole thing is not accurate, but just at first glance, it does look like the same thing.
and the way they presented
But
it, it's also a little bit deceptive too, which is because, and I actually want to pull this up because I think it's important to compare because
yeah, you want
the
me
way
to
it gets
do the screen
presented,
share real quick?
yeah, or I'll do it. Hold on. Because the way it gets
That way you can
presented
show it.
in, and this is actually already set on the right one here. When you look at the debunks, is they show you you almost never show you this image. They show you a shaded version compared to the black one in the background. And when you look at it like
That's
that,
true.
and they show it with some edits on it already, which is very deceptive because they're not showing you the real one. They're showing you how they've edited it, and then they're comparing it, and then they're saying it's perfect match. And even then, it's not a perfect match. And you can tell because when you look at the edges of the actual effect overlaid, you can see it's not a perfect match around the edges here. And actually, like a lot of these blast waves all look like this with this same kind of ripple that comes out. And some of the dots here aren't actually even there, which is weird. Now, like this big one, I think is in a similar spot when you rotate it. So, that is, I guess, a little bit
You
anomalous.
know what it
but
is?
with other
It's that
dots, there aren't.
90-degree angle right there. I can't. Do you
This
know what I'm
part's the
talking
part
about?
where like it.
That's where it
Over
fits.
here on the right. Yeah, yeah.
No, see right there where you're almost go up just a little bit. Right there. That
Yeah.
to the left.
Oh yeah.
See that to the left there. That little 90-degree angle. Yeah, that
Oh, this
whole
one here.
90-degree angle. Right there.
Yeah, I
That
think it's
line
pretty
like
similar.
that. I don't know. That's what caught my eye of like, oh,
That's fair.
that matches. But as you're overlaying it here right now,
So this is the part
even
though where
if
it's
you were
like
to
once
twist
you look
it,
at
it doesn't match.
yeah, and that's the part too where it's I agree it's pretty similar. Now to me the biggest issue is the middle. The middle is not at all the same. There's no plane cutting in through this. So okay, maybe they cut the plane into it, but why is there all this
Yeah.
excess black stuff around here that's not actually in the asset? So to
Well,
me,
that's
that's the biggest
fair.
issue. And then if
I
you're,
mean, at minimum, it looks similar, like you said, and then
yeah, it
from
definitely
there,
looks similar.
it's kind of,
So here's the problem in the second frame and the frame after that is these aren't even similar at all. And so this is the part where it's like it's obviously not this asset that's been overlaid into the game now or into the movie or the videos. Sorry, we've been going for a little bit here.
yeah.
But if you are arguing that they've been editing this and they edited it to make it to these exact 4 frames in the background because it's only I think 4 frames total, maybe 3 or 4 frames. So they took out some of the frames, they edited various frames to change them and make them into this dark black zap. To me, that's pretty incredulous. That's just my personal opinion. And I guess the biggest problem is that even if this is somehow fake, that actually doesn't make the videos fake. Like that can still be MH370,
Yeah.
even if that zap part was added in at the end.
Well, it
so-
is the only thing that's just straight right off the top of my head is regardless of that, is it would be interesting that an actual singularity going off looks identical to a VFX
Yeah, if they were
effect.
perfect matches, I would be the first person to
That's
tell you guys that this is
well,
a
I'm just
perfect
saying
match.
that's
This
kind
must
of
be.
weird. That's
Yeah,
weird that the
absolutely.
actual singularity being filmed looks like a VFX asset made in the 90s.
So the difference is it
You know what I
doesn't, in
mean?
my opinion, it doesn't. I mean, it's not even the same type of event. The events that we're talking about is an endothermic event, which is an
Or
absorption of
endothermic. Sorry,
energy, which
sorry,
is why it's
sorry.
black. The
Yeah.
the actual VFX is not even an endothermic event. It's an explosion. They're two completely different events. Now, I know that's a very
Okay.
nerdy
Oh, I
scientific
see what you're
thing,
saying. I
but
see what
that's
you're
the
saying.
reality of it. Is if you're making
All
a,
right.
I mean, this is more equivalent to like a portal, I guess. I don't really like to call it a portal. It's more
Or
like a wormhole.
okay.
So why wouldn't you use like an actual like wormhole VFX? Why would
I
you
see what you're
use
saying.
an explosion fire
Uh,
VFX?
So that's how that VFX asset is described as a like explosion
It's in the
asset.
Pyromania asset, which is literally just a bunch of
Got it. Okay. I
fires.
mean, you
That
can see
gets,
the
it's
fire
a
in the middle
package,
there.
and you get like 30 different, VFX assets, and they're all different explosions and different fires. The Pyromania one's literally called Pyromania because it's
Well, maybe
like
that's what you do. You get that one and then you fix it. You mess with it to make it look like a portal, and that's why it doesn't match up. It looks different because of that reason.
Yeah, I mean, my argument is that somebody ran a scanner to look for something that had a similar pattern and that they could use to convince people that this one frame right here somehow debunks the entire
I
videos.
see.
That's my
see.
true argument. Because looking at these other
Yeah.
ones, it's not even close. Like what you
Yeah.
see here in
Yeah.
the foreground with this extras color and stuff, like
So here's the thing that is the biggest reason this is visual effects. And this was, I really should have started with this, but the teleportation of the airplane at the end, this shockwave, which looks really cool. But this is stock footage, and it's stock footage from the 90s. I can show you the original stock footage element.
Hold on, watch.
Here it is right here.
yep, let's watch it together. That's not the same.
And it's a really cool stock footage element, pretty obscure. You haven't seen a lot of it. But if you line it up over the footage here, which I did, so here's that stock footage frame. Well, if we go back and forth, we see that they
We see they're not
perfectly
the
line
same.
up.
They
right?
definitely not perfectly
The
lined.
ripples are all in this same spot. The burnt-in dots here in the same spot. It's
Wow.
that element.
Wait. All right,
Like,
pause
there's
it.
no
Pause
ifs,
it.
Yeah, pause it. So as a statement of fact, those do not match.
Is there a
much.
place for people to
I just make some
go and
rings.
just see all, your whole investigation? Like, where do they go to get all this data and like
Yeah,
that
good
sort
question.
of stuff? Like, where can people continue this if they want to dive deep and learn more?
Yeah, and there's not going to be as many active updates related to the case because
Sure.
I've technically retired. I want people to like chill out from thinking that I'm some kind of scammer or whatever. And just honestly, we just also
Yeah.
investigate like everything. There's
Yeah.
if you look at how much stuff I have out there, go check out my pinned tweet on my Twitter profile. You can get caught up on my latest theory in terms of it's all basically been the same story, but it's just the narrative is slightly adjusted. Like the espionage angle is what I've been saying. I think is the most likely right now. I think that all the evidence lines up towards it, hard enough to believe being some kind of espionage event between the United States and China. And then on the reply there, you can find my most recent all evidence list, which says version 3, but I'm just keeping the Google Doc link updated. So if you click on the Google Doc link, you can see a slightly more updated version that's out there.
Oh, so that has like all the videos, document,
everything.
whatever.
Links to the
just everything
videos.
there.
You can see
Awesome.
even flight path explainers because some people don't want to know like where did the plane fly. You can click on that, see the flight path explainer that I did that explains the basic gist of the story in like 2 minutes just to get the gist out there. And then the evidence. I mean, you go through the evidence and you'll find that there's explanation for everything, the debris, the plane question you asked me right in the beginning. There's a whole category for that. The videos, the evidence for why the videos are real. I maybe missed some stuff here. It's really long. So
Of course.
yeah, but it's been a fun investigation. And so you can check me out as well on my live streams at JustXAshton or on Twitter. And now I'm looking into the science. I'm just changing gears because whether or not people believe, I don't really care. I know that those videos are real. What that means is that we've got secret technology out there. And I've been looking into the science and it checks out exactly the way we see in the videos, which tells me that, I think that science is really suppressed. And that's what I'm going to teach myself and have been. And that's what I'm going to try to expose to people because you may understand this, but people don't really like the science on social media. It doesn't get all the same clicks that everything else does. The drama and the what have you gets all the clicks. But the science is really important. because I think
I
that this is
agree.
where I would challenge the UFO community is there's nobody looking into the science. You got like we look up to like people like Eric Weinstein, who for him UFOs is like a side thing that he like just does to do some podcasts. It's not a thing where it doesn't feel like it's his passion, you know. I think we
Sure.
need people out there looking into the science side, and don't be afraid, even if you're not a PhD. I think that anybody can look into it and then spreading the word. So
Hey, I agree, man. Even if you're just a GED, that's me. No, I'm just
there
kidding.
you
I
go.
don't. I got my degree in nothing.
It
Okay.
honestly doesn't matter. Is the reality like you
No,
don't
no, of
to do this
course.
type
Look
of
into
stuff.
it. You're right. You're right.
Once you understand it conceptually, you know, you don't need to know all the math equations, but you can understand like
Sure.
conceptually how the universe operates. And I think it can expand anyone's insights. Now, I will
Sure.
keep in mind there's a rabbit hole. Like you said, there's a conspiracy angle, a lot of this stuff, which, you know, can definitely make people wonder about how much we're being lied to. So just be ready for that is all I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a good point. Good warning, for sure. All right. Well, is there anything we didn't cover that you know, one last thought? I don't know. Is there anything you wish I don't know, anything we didn't throw out there before we?
No, I mean, I just go ahead and say again that it's thank you to everybody who's been following along in this investigation, everybody who's had an open mind. I've met so many awesome people during this, even meeting you. I think it's been awesome.
Yeah.
This has been a good
Yeah, man.
conversation back and forth. I
Oh,
hope
this
it
has been
answered a lot of
great.
people's questions. And,
Yeah.
you know, I hope a lot of people watch this because I think this was a good conversation between just two dudes who are kind of shooting the breeze, asking basic questions that people would want to know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I want for people. So thanks a lot for having me on, man.
Oh, dude, this was awesome. You know, I know some people might be upset, but I don't really care. This is the kind of conversations that need to happen in this space. People come forward with an idea or something, and let's talk about it. We don't have to agree on everything. It's not even the point. The point is just to have the conversation civilly and then let people decide on their own, right? It's everybody's journey to take. So I'm not trying to force anybody down a certain path. And that's why that's why I apologize at the beginning, right? Because I didn't think about it that way. Again, I'm new to this community and it was very toxic at the beginning, and you think you have to be a certain way, and then you just realize, dude, this isn't going anywhere. I need to have a different approach to how I'm doing this, right? And yeah,
That's
so
exactly
I'm
what
so
I
glad
thought
we
though
had,
too. I mean,
right?
and not just
Yeah,
with you, but with a lot of other people as well. I mean, if you
sure,
look at it from my perspective, I first came into this community and I didn't know who's a psyop or disinformation agent. I didn't even know if that stuff
totally.
could even be real. You
I
know, and
know.
it took me a while to kind of come to terms with that. No, these are all just normal people that have their own opinions and they're doing their own thing. They're all, you know, going down their own path. And I respect that. I think that at the end of the day, everybody's trying to get disclosure, find out the truth, however you want to look at it.
Totally. Yeah.
So this is where
No,
I've
I
kind of
agree.
looked at through a new lens. And anyone I was, you know, offended or whatever early on, I apologize because I don't want to be that kind of guy that's, you know, putting up more divides between people in this community. I want to be the exact opposite.
No, that's awesome, dude. Again, your conversation with Jack Sarfati, in my opinion, you've proven yourself to being a good interviewer on your own and having other conversations and bringing up other things. And I loved it, dude. To be honest with you, I think you definitely deserve a seat in the community and can honestly, from what you've learned and what you've gone through and had to learn, it makes you more powerful, even because you're able to learn from that, right? And persevere more than someone who hasn't had to go through all that. So, and you know, I did, for me, it's changed completely. So like, again, just,
Yeah, I was
this
gonna
is
say,
great,
man,
dude.
you're
Right.
coming up in the game too. It's not only do I think we had a really awesome conversation here, and I've
Yeah.
done a
Oh, we
lot
did.
of interviews in general. But I've been looking at some of your work, and I think it's really good. I think that you know keeping it short and daily updates has been awesome for the community. I know people have been watching it and checking your stuff out.
Yeah.
And if this really is, if you look at this stuff, this is all real. The biggest thing we need to do, strangely enough, is just talk about it. Just have
Exactly.
conversations about it. Get it out to the
Exactly, man.
zeitgeist. Like what we need is just people to wake up. When enough
There
people
you go.
wake up, I think we'll all get what we want, man. I think you're going to be great as well.
Look at that, dude. That's a great word. That's where I'm going to cut the edit. Boom.
So what do you think? Are we looking at video games effects here? What do you think?
Where'd you get it from? Who gave it to you?
Oh, we found it on the internet from 2014.
Well, then it's bullshit. You can't believe anyone who believes what they're seeing on the internet without checking it as an idiot.
I
That's why we
checked
still
into it. I think I found the guy
That's
who
why-
leaked those videos.
That's why we have a war in Ukraine, because people are stupid like you and everybody, most Americans. They're idiots, naive, gullible schmucks.
No, I'm pretty sure
I'm
those
living in
videos
the
are real,
United
but you're entitled to your opinion for sure.
Yeah. My opinion is worthless. Your opinion is worthless because you don't know what the fuck you're seeing. You don't know if it's real or not.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross